Let's go.
We were just going to share it. Is that all right?
If we put it between.
We have an extra mic if you need it.
Hey, as long as we're both not talking at the same time, we won't be on.
That's right.
Okay, great.
Again, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight. Mark and I will be sitting in on every one of the meetings with the department head, joining us to speak to core competency, and we'll speak to other issues that may arise. One issue that's a common theme, thank you. One issue that has come across in almost every department head meeting since I arrived on December 12th, and I'm sure you've been frustrated with it in the past as well, is to understand job titles, job descriptions, and the like. Apparently, we incorporated several years under a former manager job descriptions from the state. There's clerk 1, there's clerk 2, there's administrative program manager, and quite honestly, none of them made any sense to me. And we've worked very closely with Dee and Tracy and engaged a consultant for the second year, Jack Dolan, who is helping us simplify everything. And by this time next year, we'll have job descriptions and job titles that make sense, and there'll be half as many of them. So they'll all be impactful. As we look through all of the departments, there's a common theme that I'd like to share with you so we don't have to share it every time it comes up. You may or may not know there's been a significant challenge in hiring employees. As the chief will tell you, we've got 10 open positions in the police department that she's trying to recruit for and get into the next academy. It takes almost 6 months to get a police officer or a fireman into the system. But the problem doesn't stop there. It goes across all department heads. Municipal work is no longer exciting to people looking for new jobs. Why? They get paid more in the private sector, and they can work hybrid. They can't work hybrid in the municipal sector, and they don't get paid as much. To make matters worse, 5 years ago, while I was still in the legislature, we changed the model for pensions. Now, public employees pay for their own pensions. There's no contribution coming from the state or the town. So it went from 9% to 11%. So the bottom line is the public sector is not the best place to have to hire professional staff. The second problem we have is we have an office building where every square inch of it is used. So even if we could find staff, we can't hire them because we have no place to put them. You can see even in the HR department where things are supposed to be very confidential, they've got 2 people stuck in a small area where people in treasury and people in assessing can, well, across the hallway, can hear almost everything that's discussed. The last is I touched on is salary demands. You can't hire anybody now under 6 figures. It's insanity. It's crazy. It's unaffordable. It's unsustainable. And if you can, it's a person you don't want. Not to disparage anyone, but we hired an assessor 3 months ago, and that person missed 10 out of their first 30 days. And we terminated that person, and we still don't have a replacement for that person yet. We're not going to carry people that can't do the job. So we're going to change all of the job descriptions. We're going to change all of the job titles so they make sense to anyone who's reading it without explanation. It should stand on its own. Now, we've got a strategy for fixing it. We're changing technology. When Mark gets electronic permitting online, we'll reduce the significant need for staff hours because things will be done electronically. It's a $450,000 investment, as you know. But we're one of the few towns in the South Shore that don't have electronic permitting. And that affects economic development because people think we still live in the Stone Age. And in many cases, we are. When it comes to electronic permitting, that's a great example. The second part of our strategy is to use the talented people we have. And I got to tell you, I've never been more pleased with the staff that I inherited than I have the staff I inherited at Town Hall and throughout the town. I mean, you heard Phil last week. I couldn't be more proud of the guy that's running our water and sewer department. The third part of our strategy is to use those talented people that are willing to do more with less. What does that mean? We've got Trish right now, who's our IT director, has been running assessing for the last 3 months. Using the core competencies we've got in that office, but providing the management and the leadership training we need. We've got Mark serving as an assistant town manager for 20% of his time. as opposed to hiring a full-time assistant town manager, which was pushed on me since the day I arrived, and I've fought it back. We don't need a full-time assistant town manager. But with the scope and the depth of the problems we've got before this town, and you know what most of them are, that we've inherited, starting with healthcare and going right through water, sewer, solid waste, solar farms. We need help for somebody like Mark that runs the day-to-day operation of the business in addition to what he's doing in engineering. We can't afford to hire that person, and we can't afford to give them health care. We're trying to reduce the amount of people that are on health care, and we'd have no place to put the person. So it's all moot. We're not going to hire a full-time assistant town manager. Last is staff cross-training. We've got a economic development person that's been doing planning, 2 jobs in one. We've got, as I said, Trish in IT doing 2 jobs. We've got Tracy in human resources that's providing all of the services for the entire school system, 1,360 employees. 4 years ago, there were 3 employees. We've got 2 employees now, and they're all working extra hours, extra time, extra training, so we don't have to hire more people. So we're going to come back to that theme later on. I'm not a big proponent for stipends. I'm not a big proponent of promoting people so we can get them more money. I'm not a proponent of any of those things. But I am a proponent for doing more with less. And you do that when you have highly competent, highly qualified people that are willing to take on added responsibilities so that we can avoid hiring additional people that we don't have the money, the space, or even the opportunity to hire because they're not coming to municipal governments. So I wanted to explain that to you from the very beginning. You're going to hear it in a half a dozen different departments where we've got 2 managers managing 1 department, or we've got 1 administrative staff person doing what was previously 2 positions. So rather than explain the strategy behind it, Mr. Chairman, I thought it would be helpful if we could explain it up front and then speak to where it applies as we go through those departments.
Thank you very much for
Thank
the
you, sir.
information, Mr. Coulter. Yes, Laura.
Hi. I completely feel your pain, and I absolutely appreciate the resourcefulness that you have just described in terms of doing more with less and trying to maximize the talent that you have. I think that's absolutely where you start. The problem with that is it's not necessarily scalable. And what happens when those super talented people leave? You're still left with the same problem, which is no bench of talent to bring in to replace those people. So have you thought of other kinds of solutions where you could potentially do on-the-job training or some sort of program where you could bring in more junior people? We've heard a number of times that people that apply aren't necessarily qualified. What if they had the potential and you could train them up to potentially be, candidates for those kinds of positions? I'm just worried that, this is a temporary, let's do what we can with what we have. Nothing ever stays the same. And so I would hate to see you get stuck in the same situation.
Thank you for that. You're 100% correct. I agree with every bit of that. And a couple of things we're doing in that direction. There's no secret that Bill Rowe and I are not the youngest guys in the building. And so succession planning is very important to us. As you'll see from this budget, we're moving Mary Jane over to auditing. We're not going outside to find that position. And we're recruiting a young CPA to take Mary Jane's place so he or she can train under Bill. He plans to work 5 more years. Train under Bill, get that institutional knowledge, as opposed to hiring a late-stage career person who may have a heck of a lot more experience, but not the calendar left, right? We're doing the same thing with Mark. Mark will be the next town manager. When my contract is up, whether I stay for 1 more year or not at all, Mark and I talk every day, so he's prepared to take over that position. In fact, we've got Mark and Bill interviewing that accountant because the accountant that we hire won't be working with me. The accountant will be working with Mark. And so we're looking at succession planning everywhere we can trying to balance what we can afford with the people that are applying, with what we need. And always with an ear towards succession planning. What we won't do, and we've made this clear to the staff throughout the town, we will not hire somebody just to fill the box. We're not gonna hire just the body. And it's amazing, the person I told you about that we dismissed, that missed 10 days in the first 20, day one, was asking to work hybrid. And that's what's out there right now. So we are in a short-term crisis because we've got to get the jobs done. What they're doing in human resources, I'd invite every member of this committee to come over and spend just a half an hour in that office. There's no privacy, there's no space. You're going to see in the handout we give you, since we've gone from 3 to 2, that savings over 5 years has saved over $500,000, having only those 2 people do 3 or 4 jobs. But it's reached the point where it's unsustainable. We're eventually going to have to hire somebody, but not this year. We just can't afford it this year. We don't have the money. And we're very sensitive to healthcare costs. Every time you hire somebody full-time, you got a $22,000 healthcare cost if it's a member of the family. I appreciate that question, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you letting us kick this off because it's a theme that's going to go through almost every department. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Dave, you have a question?
Thank you, Ron, through you. Appreciate the presentation. I hear loud and clear what your point is about the need to find bodies to fill a lot of positions. The thing that gets me a little bit confused, I just want to make sure everybody understands, including myself, is that we fund 100% of what every town manager has asked us. I've never seen a town meeting in which somebody said, cut their budget, what are they thinking? We can't afford it. They always get what they've asked. So I always looked at, it used to be where they had to load up greater and greater, growth in FTEs, big numbers, over since 2008 when we had a big crash. And we clawed our way back, and for the last several years that I've been on Finance Committee and town meeting, it's been 100% funded, even if the positions aren't filled. So I guess what I'm wondering is, because on one hand I hear you saying you don't have enough money to hire the talent because the private sector pays bigger money. So maybe what you're saying is the number isn't right to attract talent on one hand, but on the other hand, you got a flush budget with every position filled. So if you have, let's say, 10 positions in police, 2 positions in this department, you add it up, and let's say I'm just going to make it up, let's say there's 15 positions that aren't filled. Well, that gets carried over into turnbacks. So aren't you going to be able to use up the money that's already appropriated by reconfiguring how that money is appropriated to multiple managers? I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of the comment, but you're not really asking for us to increase the amount in the budget per se, but you're restructuring the way your budget is coming to you so you don't have to turn back as much and you get to fill more seats. I think that's what you meant.
It is. David, thank you for that question, or for that statement. You're 100% right. We have a dual risk. The first one is we can't add people. We've got 4 FTEs here, and I still think Bill's got to nail this down even tighter. But 3 of them are firemen. And when you make the type of money they're making in EMS, over $2.5 million a year, when they need more firemen to make more calls instead of subcontracting it to independent contractors, it makes good fiscal sense. But we face the dual challenge of staying within a budget while still out there actively recruiting for people. And we have not been very successful in finding good people. But we have to still fund it because we need those people. Because to Laura's point, what we're doing, although prudent in the short term, is unsustainable. Imagine for a second, if Bill Rowe left, Mary Jane got sick, imagine us coming before you without that institutional knowledge. That's one example. Imagine me leaving and Mark took a different job in another town. It's unsustainable. You need that institutional knowledge. And so trying to do both is a real challenge. It's a real risk. The problem in police is particularly egregious because we're not saving money not filling those positions. We're paying incredible overtime for every one of those shifts. We need to get rid of that overtime. And the only way we can do that is to hire people. And we've got a person that wants to leave the department right now, and Donna and I had to refuse the request to leave the department because she's on civil service, correct? Correct. And so we have the right to refuse them leaving because we paid for their training. That was heartbreaking. It was a young lady who had a great opportunity, a great career path in her hometown, but we just can't afford to let them go right now. In terms of payment, we are paying people below the private sector market. But this is the public sector. We should never be intending to be at the top of the market. There are other benefits of being in the public sector, like a pension. And whether you're paying for it 100% on your own or whether you're not, there are no pensions in the private sector. So we're trying to balance it. It'll be very different next year than this year. So I'm hoping that the committee, as we get to these individual cases, can understand what we're doing. I can assure you of this. We're not paying anybody. I'm not paying Mark Tisdale. The town's not paying Mark Tisdale because he's a great friend and a great wingman and a great partner. It's because we need help at that level with these major, major problems we've got. We can't afford to hire somebody, and for 20% of Mark's time, I can have him work on issues that I won't get to for months that need attention today. And Mark's dealing with that. As he is, he's dealing with you folks.
Thank you very much for that. Did you have a
Do
question?
it as we go through the budget. We gotta get into the budget.
Okay, so town manager budget, did you want to cover that?
Well, I'd be happy to take any questions. It's very close to last year. What we're adding in the handout we gave you on the add backs, there is a $30,000 for Mark to serve as the assistant town manager. That's one of the things we're asking in this category to be added back. As we look down, we elevated the position of the selectman's secretary. As you know, we went through 2, if not 3 secretaries in a year and a half. The workload is such, given night works and everything, that we could not keep those people, so we increased that salary to $65,000 a year. Again, put aside for a minute the titles. We're really placing the value on the person and not necessarily on the job description, because it's meaningless to us right now. It's all state rhetoric. So those are the 2 big changes here. In addition to that, well, these are also big changes. At the request of the board, we added $12,500 under consultants. We don't know for what right at this point, but we've got such major problems that I'll be happy to speak to at your convenience at another time, that take specific industry skill sets. By way of example, our solar farm. Raise your hand if you know how much money they've paid since they built it.
I can guess it's 0.
It's 0. And so we have to pay a consultant who knows the solar industry to go back way into the records, figure out how, what, when, where, why. They haven't even paid personal property taxes for that solar farm. That's one of a dozen problems. I think John and Vaughn, you've been in my office, you've seen them on the wall, that we have to address quickly, and that's why the select board in their wisdom said we need a specialist in that area as opposed to Mark or I trying to learn that business. Another area is $25,000 for DEI consultant diversity. It's been recommended by MMA, Mass Municipal Associates, that every community have a diversity person who will work with town staff to better understand our goals, our challenges, the obstacles, and to help impact our culture in a way that is diverse, that is accepting, caring, respectful of all folks. That's a new line item, those 2 items. It's not a mandate from the state, it's a recommendation from the state.
So do we have any questions from the committee
Those are my only,
on the town manager budget? Thank you for that. Any questions from the committee on the town manager budget? John, you have a question?
A few statements or concerns. There's a reason that the assistant town manager, HR director line is empty. But, you know, a number of years ago, we had a request to hire an assistant town manager. And the reasoning was, people in the past have had one. But the people in the past didn't have HR people, they didn't have the economic development person. You know, there were a number of positions that had been added in that the assistant had been taken care of, and he was denied that at that time. Just to give you a little background. I am quite concerned if 20% of this individual's time is going to be spent there, that means he's not doing the work in his current position. And I'll say it, I'm not looking to add $30,000 in salary for someone who's already working for the town. If he's putting time in there, that's taken away from his other duties. That's just my thought. I know you, and I'll go back to what you had originally stated about titles and job descriptions and so forth. And we have been told now for years, we've asked for them. You got represented people. Most of the people are represented. How can you not have a job description for them? It boggles my mind. And for the last 2 years, we've been told, they're working on it in-house. We'll get it to you. We're saving you all this money. Now we're going to hire a consultant to do that. I don't know. That's institutional knowledge for you. Where is it? Where's the product from the last couple of years? We've been told it was being done. I know you said you're reclassifying the, well, we'll say the secretary, I don't know, they're going to be an admin. They're going for the select board. And we got to be a little more clear on things here, because you list one position as minus 100%, and then you give another position with a salary, but nothing goes in there. That's 27.7% higher than the salary the person was getting before for a reclassification, promotion, whatever. It's a $14,112 increase. That's 27.7%. That's a pretty good jump, especially where a lot of the duties that person used to do have been taken away and sent down to the clerk's office. But again, that's some institutional knowledge maybe you weren't aware of. But it's a concern. The DEI consultant, what are we gaining from that? I mean, I can read it, but what are we gaining by that nobody here is capable of doing?
Well, I couldn't teach it. I couldn't teach diversity training. I've had no training in that. I don't know if anybody here in this room, I don't think, has had training in diversity and diversity training and inclusion. It's a major problem in our society. There are consultants that specialize in this type of training that is geared towards impacting an organization's culture. So it is a specialty. I don't think anybody in this room has had that training unless.
So this is for a training.
A trainer.
Trainer
Yes.
for that
Yes.
particular, okay.
If I may respond, Mr. Chairman, to those two concerns?
Sure.
Your assumptions, Mr. Anzavino, with regard to the assistant town manager, how could that person have the time to do this job? The engineering side of Mark has been the only successful department to find highly competent people. So the town planner's position is being filled, and the assistant town engineer is being filled. Project engineer is being filled. Mark's been doing those jobs. That's what typically, not an entry level, but a mid-level engineer would be doing. Mark has successfully found people from the private sector to do that. That's what's freeing him up to help with the assistant town manager's role. We're not hiring a person, we're hiring 20% of that person. And we can put off finding hundreds of thousands of dollars from the solar farm until I can get to it. But that's where Mark will be focusing his time, on high-impact things that can address very serious issues right away. Your assumption that he's going to be doing, he shouldn't be able to do this job is solely based upon his ability to hire people in his department. Positions have been open for quite a while.
All right, thank you for that. Do you have any other questions, John, or any other
No,
statements?
no, that's fine.
Diane,
thank
you
you.
have a question?
Next one is.
Chairman, that's supposed to increase by 30,000, and if so, what's the percentage of the total budget increase? Do we have that figure?
Line are you asking about?
The total total budget is up by 18%. So it's 415, 178, so should it be 445, 178? And what is the percentages?
That $30,000 would be added to it.
Okay.
Do the math on it, 445, 178, subtracting that. That's a request from the select board to add that. That's not actually in the budget now. So if the finance committee is accepting that request, we would add $30,000.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, through you.
Yes.
That was my question too, Bob. Where is this money going to come from, I guess, is the question.
We haven't done projections on revenue. This is just an expense budget at this point.
Is there any other expenses or something else? I know you said about line items that could be changed. Is there any place else in the budget that you could find?
We could perhaps look at open positions and close some out that we know we will not get to this year. I'd be happy to go back and look at the budget and go through that exercise. Thank you. It's a great question.
Any other questions from the committee? Questions or comments from the committee?
Do you want to join us?
Town manager budget?
Human resources next.
Questions or comments from the public? Town manager budget? Hearing none, next item on the agenda. Part B. Page 13, human resources.
Tracy, do you get a little bit?
Fine. But you a bigger copy.
As she's passing that out, just a general comment. If you're going to be passing stuff out at the meeting, it would be better to send it to us electronically ahead of time so we can read it, because we don't have the time to go through 6 pages of stuff to read it and take it in, or at least I don't, when we're trying to hear on a budget, anything, it would just be helpful to have it
Sure.
ahead of time,
We'll take
so that we can prepare for our meetings.
And we'll also send it electronically as well tomorrow, this copy.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
So you all know Deanna. She's been in charge of HR for many, many years. And she prepared that presentation to give you some perspective on what she and Tracy have been doing in that department for a number of years, which, again, I invite you all in to just witness it for half a day. You'll be astounded. So we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on any of the line items.
Have any questions? Joel, you have a question?
Is there any particular reason why the DEI consultant is under your budget and not hers?
It could be argued it should be under HR.
That's what I'm arguing.
We can make that adjustment if you'd like.
It actually
It was,
was
it-
under mine when, you don't, the department column isn't here, but I had put it under mine, and then it got moved to the town, it got increased and moved to the town manager. We had it,
Let me ask this question then. The DEI consultant, who would that consultant be reporting to?
I believe it was, at the time, it was, we had, Mark was just the interim, so we really weren't sure. I believe we would be putting the DEI consultant, and that's why it was moved under the town manager, because it would report to the town manager.
Report to the town manager. Well, then that would make sense.
Right.
I mean, if I could just add to that.
Don't ask.
I mean, it just makes sense too, because maybe one of the departments we'll be looking at to see if their procedures are in place would be human resources. And if that person's reporting to human resources director, it just doesn't make sense. It should report to the town
As long as
manager.
you guys are clear about
Yeah.
who's doing what. that's
Right.
fine with me.
And that person would be also, they would work with our office as far as hiring process, well, for hiring and recruiting and all of those things, so, but as far as reporting, I believe they would report to the town
If you
manager.
hire a DEI consultant who says, I'm not working with human resources, you're going to have a problem.
Okay, so if there's any specific questions on the department's fairly small, the expense lines, there's not much of a change. We did increase the advertising a bit just because the cost of advertising has gone up, and that's for advertising for positions. Within the budget itself, you will see, and you'll see below in the notes, that it says the program administrator one was moved to a new department, benefits management. That had been done, and then it was moved back, I believe, at the select board level to back to HR. So you'll see that the, oh boy, this is small. The program administrator one line is not, it's zeroed out, and then, as you said, John, the percentage isn't moved into the new column, but the office administrator benefits management is put in the budget. So that's technically the same, that's the same person filling that role. It's just a new title. And that falls in line with what Tom spoke about earlier, that when the director of analytics left, HR took on some of those duties for the health insurance, reviewing claims, tracking claims, working closer with the consultant. So that position, she had been receiving a stipend, and it was put into her salary. This here, and nobody, we're not expecting anybody to go through this, but just for your own information, you can go through this and you can see this is pretty much what we do in HR. And as Tom said, we were a 3-person office in 2017. We went to a 2-person office. We've taken on a tremendous amount since then. And if we had remained a 3-person office, and there's a chart on the back, you will see that we've saved $635,000 in just with the 2 of us doing the work. I've now taken on negotiations, which I never did. The town manager handled it in the past. So now that I'm doing negotiations, Tracy's picked up more duties because there's only 2 of us in the office, so she's taken on a lot more also. So I'm not putting myself in here. You don't see a change in my salary line item. Tracy's salary line item has been
If I may,
raised. Sure.
negotiations is still the responsibility of the town manager. We work together on this. What Dee has replaced is town council. Town council previously was involved every step of the way, organizing, drafting, putting minutes together, putting drafts together, and scheduling follow-up meetings. Dee does all that now. We do the negotiation together, but Dee does everything that we were paying an outside law firm to do.
And we bring legal in when it comes time to the ending steps of drafting the MOA.
We
And
agree to nothing until legal signs off on it.
Do we have any questions or comments from the committee on the human resources budget? John, you have something?
And this is going to happen on a few things, I guess, but I know it was a request to put the benefit person back here, and we're going to run into the same thing when we come to the crossing guards and the resource officers and so forth. And that is, I know that's on the agenda a little later, under the joint expenses, because that's where they were. However, I did make note, so your notes 1 and 2 with the office admin and the program administrator 1. The program administrator had moved, and on the program administrator 1, it said that the stipend had been rolled in, which I think you had just mentioned that she was getting a stipend, and it had put. Now, what I did note that the salary that was listed under the benefits management, under the joint costs, was listed as $72,706. And again, just looking at when they put it in the joint costs, it was just listed, here you go, it's new. But I'm looking at the salary from FY '23 was $59,469. So again, quite a significant jump, over $13,000, that will end up going back into this budget.
so it was moved to that dollar amount, and then the position title, I believe, was changed at the, was it the
But
manager's?
yes, the point I'm making is there's
There
a
was a
couple of instances here where a new title was made, or a position, and they put it in with showing like it's no increase, and the one that got zeroed out was significantly less than the new one. So when you looked at the original joint costs, where the benefit management person was listed, it had mentioned it moved here from HR, but that was $59,469 last year. It's now $72,706, which is an increase of 22.258%. Again, just something that
This is a shortened version, so it was under the department level, and then it moved to town managers and the selectmen, so
I
you're
go
seeing it.
strictly by the budget that was passed on that we got on
Right, that's
January 18th. That's the budget that the selectmen passed. Anything that happens to it after that, they really don't have a say in it. They can request changes. All I'm saying is, when you look at what's gone, it doesn't show these jumps as clearly as it should, in my opinion. I do my homework, I find it, and I say, yeah, that's a significant jump. Now, you said there was a stipend involved
Yes,
before?
yes.
And it got rolled in. What was the stipend for, Deanna? Can
It
you?
was a stipend that was in last year under the Director of Analytics or Auditing Analytics. That was a $3,000 stipend. That was when the director was still here. When she left, duties were split up to different people. Some people took on, the assistant town accountant had taken on some duties. Tracy took on some duties. Stipends were given to those different people, which resulted in saving quite a bit of money. So Tracy ended up getting a stipend. That stipend plus the $3,000, rather than being paid as separate stipends, now that Director of Analytics is no longer a department, was rolled in and put into her salary. And that's why the salary, you'll see the salary increase.
So that was a stipend that was given after the
Susan
director
left.
left?
Yes.
Which was fairly.
Last
relatively-
August, I believe it
Yeah,
was,
rel-
yeah.
Shortly into the fiscal year, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
So the stipend really doesn't show up anywhere.
You're not going to see it in the fiscal
Right, you're not
'23
going to see it
budget.
in '23,
Correct.
so.
Correct.
And that's why I wanted to
Yep.
just explain
Yeah,
where
so
the,
that's-
where the stipend came from
Yep.
and why, and.
Yep.
And
So
you
she's
had
been
said
receiving,
took on
but
more
it's been,
duties.
yes, yes.
And again, it's something that hopefully, once we get through all this and we make our final determinations, we can get some of these things a little more accurate. Footnotes are great,
Yeah, this one is missing a
Right.
footnote. It
And-
should say that.
Well, I mean, it said that
back in.
it got rolled in, and that's fine, and it's easy enough to tweak it to indicate that she had taken on more duties and was given a stipend after another
Mm-hmm. It was
position
after,
left.
correct.
And that's fine, but I'm just saying, just so people know, let's be transparent. I keep hearing the word, so let's be transparent.
And
So
how much was that
that
stipend for?
salary went up 22.258%,
Yes,
that position.
yes.
How much
correct.
was that stipend for?
It was for the 3,000, and then the other was 7,500.
Okay, so for a total of 10.5 on that.
Yes,
All right,
correct.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I also appeal to the committee to be practical. I can't hire anybody even close to the person who's holding that seat for under $80,000. There's no way. We wouldn't get anybody. So I look at the job that is required, providing health insurance services for 1,300 employees in and of itself. I wouldn't find anybody for under 80 grand. So I appreciate John's comments, I really do, about transparencies, I'm all in. But from a practical perspective, I can't make any sense of what's been done in the past, and I've tried. But what I can make sense of is the person we have in the position, what it would cost to replace that person at market prices, and I couldn't come near what we're asking for. So that's the practical side. I so respect what you do going back and looking at this, John, I really do. But we have to deal with the practical side of this. as
I'm
well.
not arguing
No,
with
you're
the
not.
salary that's there. The point I'm making is,
You're right.
we need to, when we put this out at town meeting, people have to see this, and it's up to us to make sure that it's explained enough, and explained fully. You mentioned there was another stipend. This says the stipend was rolled in. There was more than one stipend rolled in.
Yes, they were in the other department, right, that's when they did away with that department, it's zeroed out, the Director of Analytics.
Right, but you mentioned there was a $7,500 stipend.
Right, that was done in fiscal '23, in August of fiscal
And that
23.
stipend was to who, for what?
It was taken from the auditing analytics, given to Tracy for taking on the health insurance end of monitoring all of the health
Right,
insurance.
and what was the $3,000 stipend?
That was the health and wellness stipend also related to the health insurance. That was done in fiscal '22, I believe.
Okay.
That
So-
was-
So there were two of them that were
Yes.
rolled in?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make the point too, Laura had made the comment to Tom earlier about that. I mean, I've been here 34 years. I'm not going anywhere in the near future. I probably have 6 or 7 years. Tracy will be behind me. We will be here in another 2 or 3 years, and we will need to hire another person as a clerk that will be trained to, you know, learn what we do, so that we will have somebody else if, as,
Laura, you have a question?
I just had one more for Dee herself. I was just curious, since you've come into this position, have you been taking any courses or training or anything?
we
for
have,
HR?
but there's not a lot of time, unfortunately, for it, because we're so, I mean, we don't have time. That was one of the things the town manager said when he first came in, about sending us to conferences and classes. And we do a lot of online, because most everything nowadays is online, because a lot of things aren't in person. But we do as much as we can. But the intent is for us to go further and take on some more.
No, I was just
classes.
curious.
Yeah,
Because
we
it's
do as
been a
much as
few
we
years,
can.
so I was
Yeah.
just curious if you were able to get into any training or
Yeah,
anything for
I wish
HR.
we had more time in the day.
Laura, you
Or
have
the
a
week.
question?
Thank you.
Just real quickly, because I feel like this is kind of connected to our previous discussion. You've gone down from a 3-person team to a 2-person team and saved over $500,000. Looking at this list of all of these things that you do, I mean, is this manageable with a 2-person team? Because what I'm worried about, going back to
Right.
our previous conversation is, are we creating our own problem by burning out our own?
I will say that before Tracy, we had an HR director, and who didn't, anybody that knows, didn't do a whole heck of a lot. And then, that's a nice way of putting it. And I did a lot of this, and I couldn't rely on anybody else's backup. I could rely on her. I've never in all my years taken a full straight week of vacation. I mean, that's, people take 2-3 weeks off. But that's just me, too. I mean, I come to work when I'm sick, which Tom knows. Tracy's the best thing, I will tell you, she's the best thing that's ever happened, not only to this town, but to me. She's an unbelievable asset to this town. And I know you guys need to move on to other departments, but you are right, and we should, but we have been dealing with the interviewing and the recruiting, and we're not getting anybody to apply for jobs. So hopefully that will change, and we will be able to hire somebody to get somebody in.
I think this is just a bigger picture kind of thing, like we need to be looking at the long game, because.
We do have the intention too, because now that the school's hiring an assistant, I think it's an assistant superintendent, HR benefits person, we plan on talking to him too, to work with the schools on maybe some of the enrollments and things like that we can share with them.
Because salary is one thing, but unrealistic expectations of a job description is also going to be a limiting factor in attracting the right people. So I think there's a balance to be struck here in what we're trying to save and what we're trying to do to maintain function. And so I just want to make sure that we're not like killing our people to save money, because that's not going to do us any good exactly. So that's it.
Well, thank you very much, Laura. Did you want to clarify something? John?
Just to confirm, so the office administrator is the title that should be in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
Well,
we're
and the other one, it
working
just
on-
said-
We're working on these titles, they're
But,
terrible.
no, but I mean, that is the title, Program 1 went to
And
office.
John, there is a book of job descriptions that does exist, just so you are aware. It's not like we don't have any, but we're working on a new batch, because these are. We have them. You can come in and get a book. You can get a book anytime you want. They haven't been negotiated with the unions, though, but we do have them.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the Committee on Human Resources? Bob?
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for the packet. It truly shows the savings to the town. Some of the stuff is pretty unbelievable. And on a personal note, Tracy, I've talked to you a couple times, and you've been very helpful, responsive. My other question is, do we still have a credit union in the town hall?
Yes, we do.
We do, okay. And as far as HR is concerned, and a new hire, can you mandate direct deposit as far as that's concerned?
We are actually going to be mandating direct deposit. The treasurer is drafting her letter, and we'll be sending it out, and everybody, we actually, with COVID, we got a lot of people on board with direct deposit.
Okay, that's
But
good to hear.
We do still print about 100 checks.
Okay. So the goal is to get away from that.
Yes, absolutely,
Okay.
because we have more lost checks than you could ever imagine.
And I can only imagine Bill doing the bank reconciliation as well is going to save him time as well. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Paula, yes, okay,
I work with Paula doing that right now. And
Okay.
we don't like these payrolls that we have to run for a void check.
Yeah, I just think could save a lot of time and streamline things, so, okay. But again, thank you for this. This is great. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, comments from the Committee on Human Resources? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public on the Human Resources budget? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, item C, procurement.
Page 14.
Page 14. Thank you, John.
I was thinking the same thing. This is minus 2.9%, so.
Hi.
Aye.
Yeah, I'm Fran Brigniti. I'm the procurement officer for the town of Stoughton. You all have seen my budget. It's pretty self-explanatory. Advertising and freight, training, travel, and dues. It's a pretty small budget.
All right. Any questions or comments from the committee on the procurement budget? Chet?
What check?
I'm not sure you ought to explain that.
All right. Oh, okay. Thanks, Chet. Joel, do you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, am I allowed to ask her how adorable her grandson is? Only with your mic on. Okay.
He is cute. That baby is cute.
How adorable is your grandson? Okay, fine. All right. That's the thing that I wanted to really know. How many construction projects are you bidding out in the course of this year or this past year?
In the past year, I did not think of that question. Off the top of my head, I'll say the fire station project, we had the water main project.
Okay, all right.
I have a lot more than that, but I'm drawing a blank.
I'm sorry I asked. Go back to your grandson. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Yes, Mr. Coulter.
DPW out to bid, and we're disengaging from a lot of the consortiums that don't necessarily get the best price, and we're engaging the vendors directly. And our goal is to make 10% on the top 25 vendors, simply by asking for more competitive prices, and Fran's spearheading that.
All right, thank you very much for that. Do we have any other questions or comments from the committee on the procurement budget? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public on the procurement budget? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, item 4D, central purchasing. Page 10. Thank you, Mr. Laurie.
Yeah, can you fill it in?
Yeah, I can fill in.
Even though it is 13%.
Does that sound twice?
Yeah, it went down
Yeah.
13.4%, so.
Yeah,
I thought we transferred these over here.
not yet.
No, no.
Soon.
I thought we did too. So we're just looking at.
Yeah, I
actuals
think we
last.
looked at it together, so everything was basically,
We're just looking at actuals and we were able
Yeah.
to reduce.
yeah.
So, I didn't know. Are you presenting it then?
Reggie's department, but Fran.
Oh, okay,
I
thank
was
you. I didn't know. Okay,
overseeing it.
right.
Yep.
All right, so any questions or comments from the committee? Central purchasing? Adam, yes, absolutely.
The telephone expense? What is that exactly? Because there is telephone in a lot of other departments.
That's the landlines in the town hall. Yeah, I don't think it's for all the landlines. I think it's for fax lines,
Okay.
and cell
the town
phones.
hall ones,
In town hall ones, yep.
So it's all town hall, cell phones, landlines. Okay. All right.
The departments pay for this.
Yeah, and honestly, she pays the bill for the cell phones, but the individual departments, it comes out of their budget.
I can answer. Can I answer for that, just to help? So when we migrated.
You have to come up to the mic, though. That way everyone at home can hear you.
I'm sorry. Hi, Trish Shropshire, I'm IT Director. When we went to vertical for our VoIP phone system, a lot of that is the monthly payment. So we have some fax lines, and it's the monthly payment for that.
Yeah, the landline, right?
Yeah, and the cell phones.
No, the departments pay for the cell
Right, the
phones.
cell phones, yeah.
So like monthly payment to,
Yeah.
for the to
Yeah,
uphold
for
the
like
system
service.
and maintenance
Yeah.
and things like that. Okay.
You good with that, Adam? Okay, great. Any other questions, comments from the committee on central purchasing? John, you have a question?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I missed it on the previous one, so I'll catch it on this. We heard somebody say the advertising's going up because everything is so costly. And I noticed here, I know it wasn't big, but it got cut in half. Similar to the previous budget that we heard for procurement, where it went down almost to a third of what it was. How is it that some people for advertisement, it's going to cost them? I know it's costing us, so how do those go down?
For me, for the procurement department, I have to legally add in a bunch of places. Most of the places are free. The one place I have to legally put an ad in is the newspaper. We have a deal with the Patriot Ledger, and it's $12.85. And that services my need for legal purposes. So I don't mind putting it there, but I also put the ad on my website, on the procurement department bulletin
But I mean,
board.
so that's why that's gone down,
It's
because you
yes,
have the
because-
special deal. I well know that special
Yeah,
deal.
that's a pretty good deal for $12.85. I
Service.
couldn't pass it out. Yeah.
All right, thank
You
you.
don't get charged for central register, do you?
No, or combines.
No, that's what you were saying with those, but it's just funny that with others, it's going to go up.
If they have to advertise in, even if it's the Brockton Enterprise or the Suburban Shopper or wherever, those
more
ads
money.
can be definitely a lot
All
of
right,
money.
thank you.
Welcome.
All right, thank you for that, John. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Item D, central purchasing. Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public on central purchasing? Yes, please identify yourself for the record.
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. I realize we're getting a better price from the Patriot Ledger, but realistically, I don't even think the Patriot Ledger has 400 subscribers out of 30,000 people in the town of Stoughton. I mean, people are laughing, but how do we find out about the zoning and board of appeals things and the planning board things? Particularly someone like myself who has no internet connection. I relied on a previous paper that it's nobody's fault here that it went out of business, but going for price when nobody has access, it's like writing the public notice on the bottom of this table and hoping people just happen to drift in.
If I might, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I'll speak for the Finance Committee anyways, and actually I know some of the other standing committees. We're still publishing in the shopper, which is a costly investment, but we do it because it's free and it goes to every house in this town. So it doesn't satisfy the legal need for advertisement, which is why we still put it in the ledger, but we are still putting them in the shopper. Today's actually has 3 ads because it covers next week as well as this week's. But we do that in consideration that we know it goes to everybody. But we'll do the legal just to cover ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Please identify yourself for the record. Oh, you have to grab a microphone.
Thanks. Stephanie Carrara, Town Clerk, Precinct 2. I just want to let you know,
Speak loud for the room, though.
I'm trying to be nice, not yell. I still have to come up in front of you guys and sit next to him, so. Stephanie Carrara, Town Clerk, Precinct 2. I just want to let you know that Bond Council has allowed us to advertise in the Suburban Shopper, and that is accepted for legality reasons, and especially when we have to we have borrowing articles, different things like that. So I want you to know that they have accepted that. They still call it the Stoughton Penny Saver. We've told them several times it's been bought out and the name has changed, but Claudia, who has since retired from Lock and Lord, has told myself and our town treasurer that we can advertise in the Penny Saver for legal reasons.
Is there anything in writing that we could have, that instead of it being like somebody saying over the phone, yeah, you can do it?
I believe she sent us a letter. I can check, and I can check with Paula if we got something.
requires
It was in an email that we
Such importance that it would be great to have it.
I can look back in my emails.
Thanks.
Bond council agree to that too? Barry, I don't know her last name.
Kara has not, but it hasn't been changed.
All right, well, I'm more concerned with the statute that requires the legal ads. Believe me, we put it in the shopper because common sense, it goes to every house for nothing.
That was
So
our,
people can read it.
that was our argument.
But the special deal we have in the ledger, we don't care. We advertise them 2 weeks. We'll put it in, to advertise a week ahead and the week of, and it's short money. So in that regard, the legal ad is a lot cheaper than what we're paying the suburban shopper, but
Although I agree with you, I am the person that works the most with Paula when it comes to bond counsel, and you try to find a tear sheet from the Patriot Ledger. You try to call a local shop to see if they're carrying the Patriot Ledger. They are not. So that is, but I'm just letting you know because I'm the one that will contact you guys to say, hey, I need that legal ad, and it's like, well, where's the Patriot Ledger? So that's the problem. So having it advertised in the suburban shopper is really the way to go. But we'll get that
we
confirmed
request
for
the
you.
cut sheets, we get the proofs, and we save all the shoppers, so.
We have any other questions or comments from the committee on central purchasing? Well, hearing none. Any other questions, comments from the public, central purchasing? Hearing none. Go to the next item on the agenda.
Assessor page 11.
4E, page 11, which is the assessor's budget.
I'm helping out temporarily in the assessing department. As previously mentioned, we've gone through 3 assessors, so speaking to you, Laura, I'm doing cross-training in that department. We have some consultants helping out. We had a billing issue. I say we, that's why I got put in this position. We had, the department had a major billing issue that I got pulled in to help fix. So it's new for me. I'm doing some training. I forget who asked the question about training, but I'm reading that Assessing 101 book, making sure that everybody is cross-trained and can do more than their job. But basically, our budget, the one thing I've asked to be put back in is the appraisal services. Right now, we're at a point where we're trying to catch up on things, and I think originally when the budget was done, it was brought down from 15,000 to 5,000. I'd like to request that it gets put back up to 15,000, just because of appraisals that need to be done. I'm nervous, I'm sorry.
You shouldn't.
Don't be nervous.
You're doing a great job. Can I, Bill?
Why would you be nervous in front of us?
I wonder.
Can I put Trish a lifeline here? I know she's nervous, and I get that. At the time the budget was done, it's one of the add-backs requests we've got. At the time the budget was done, the report we got from the new assessor was everything was fine. Everything was wonderful. Everything's ducky. Everything's going great. and it was an absolute mess.
Was that the first, second, or third new
I think it was
assessor?
the third one.
Okay.
And so the consultant, we have
Fair.
backlog on appraisals that are way back when, on residential apartment complexes. All of the problems are now identified due to Tricia's efforts. We now need to fix them, and that's what we're doing all the time. So there are a couple of changes in this budget. The first one is to add back that $10,000, I believe it's $10,000, into the budget for that. We have two
Appraisal.
consultants that are critical to the teaching and the learning and the support that we need over there to stay on this track of fixing it. And the second thing is under IT, we put it in Tricia's department, which is her compensation for managing this department, the $20,000. It's a stipend, and when we hire a full-time person, then we won't need Tricia in that department. But what we're doing is spending $20,000 for the person we let go, who was $100,000 plus a family health care program. So bottom line, Tricia's fixing the department, identifying the problems, using the right consultants. The full-time staff, once everything's in place, will be one department head. Lena, who is the secretary up in the selectman's office, is a full-time staff person down there, who went there without a pay increase, you'll be happy to know. As she gets the training, she'll get additional compensation as she gets the certifications. A data collection in Gordon, who's full-time, and a program administrator, which will replace the two part-time people. So eventually, it'll be a four-person staff. That's what's been budgeted for FY '24.
Can I just
Trish?
add one, can I just add one thing to that? Currently, we have two employees who have retired and who have done us a solid, and they have come back to assist with the whole training. And we have a consultant that's in the assessing role right now till we get everything under control.
Just to clarify for your board too, if I'm sitting where you are, I'm wondering which person's which in here. The senior clerk two is Lena, who was the previous Board of Selectmen administrative person. Gordon is the data collector, and Kathy's position, right, program administrator one.
Yeah.
The person that just retired, Kathy, that was her position, so.
And Mr. Chairman, we've got under the add-back request, that $20,000 under Tricia's department, Information Systems Department Head. I thought it should have been.
We'll get that
I thought
later
it should
on.
have been under assessing.
Ye-
We'll put it wherever you'd like, if you'd like to change it.
But to clarify that, I have a question on that. So it's $20,000 that's paid to help out in the assessing department, to manage the department. But then when we hire an assessor,
That stipend would go away.
is it a yearly stipend? It's if you hire an assessor the week after the,
Annualized. It'll be should be.
is it prorated, I guess?
20,000 is
Like
for the year.
bi-weekly.
Oh, wait a minute, it's an annual requirement. We don't know if we'll hire somebody in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 1 year.
But if someone's hired after 3 months,
We adjust it.
oh, okay, that's, I just,
The 20 would cover if she was there for the full fiscal year.
That's correct. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I should have been able to answer that more clearly.
I didn't know if you get $20,000 and then you hire an assessor the next day, it's,
That I would sign
Good
up
day.
for, Bob. I would totally sign up for that.
Then you'd be nervous if you came
Yeah.
before us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
any questions or comments from the committee on the assessor budget? Joel, you have a question?
Isn't there a board of assessors?
Yes.
Is that full up right now, or?
There's currently 2 members on the Board of Assessors. They're trying to get it, yeah, they're trying to get an additional. They're working on that.
Wasn't Rick Hill on that?
Yes.
Yes. Rick Hill was on it, and he didn't complete the training timely. He was given the opportunity, and eventually he was taken off. And Mr. Jutras has left.
Okay.
He was there for a long time, and he has left, so that's why they're down to 2.
Yeah, and the other member is Janet Teal. who
Yes,
used to be
Janet
on
Teal, who
FinCom.
was here, and
Any other questions, comments? Diane? Oh,
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So I assume that this, what's it called, department head is vacant right now. So this money is available if you need to put it elsewhere. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
that was it after my.
Mark, you have a question?
Yes, I was trying to figure it out and trying to listen in, and I still couldn't figure it out. I know you guys threw out names of who's who and what's what, but on the senior clerk too, I know it dropped by half. So is it still senior clerk 2, or is it senior clerk 1?
Yeah.
Or is that going to a
I
classification of
I
who's
can
who?
answer that. When Robin was here, our veterans assistant Sharon, part of her salary was paid under this budget. So that has been, excuse me, moved into the veterans area. So basically, there's still 4 people in there, the salaries are the same, and nothing has changed.
So are they still considered a senior clerk 2?
Yeah, I just think half of her salary was paid in that salary line item.
Should that be changed from just to a clerk or clerk 1?
That was one,
Let's name the title.
it was 1.4 FTEs before. So there was 2 senior clerk
Okay.
positions. Just one was 40% of the time.
Okay, I see. Okay, all right. And then my other question is I've been hearing a lot with this department on training, and we need to do training, but you don't really have a budget in here for training, but $725, that doesn't seem like much money for training.
Yeah, so basically what we're doing is we have 2 people that retired that are actually doing us a solid that we're paying for training people that are there now. Our new hire, Lena, is being trained by 2 retired people that came back and are working for us part-time. And in the assessing department head line item, we have a consultant who has 30 years of assessing experience that's helping us get back on track.
All right, so the people that have retired, where are they get shown in your budget then?
Under these line items, the ones that were, the senior clerk 2
They won't be here on 24.
we're using some of her money to train the new senior clerk 2 that's been hired. And then the program admin 1 is here with us until July, but we have not filled that position yet. We have her training.
So Mark,
I just want to make sure that,
Yeah.
there's a lot of training going on.
I
We're only
know.
spending
So they're
$725.
getting put out of
New
the
people.
FY23 budget right now, right? And then FY24, we're planning on hiring full-time positions.
Okay.
And Mark, what you should also know is one of the consultants we have, which is the name of the firm that has the training? What's the name?
What the,
The company name?
yeah, the
Resource appraisal?
RTR.
Right, RTR. They provide free training, so they've got modules on everything we do, and what Trish is doing is bringing the new staff, the full-time staff, starting with Lena, through all of the training online that consultant provides to us for free,
Okay,
or as part of his consulting fee.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't shortchanging you.
So
on
that,
me.
the point is, it's free. It's free
Thanks, sir.
from that consultant.
Thank you, Mark. John, you have a question?
Yes. And I know it's in the other budget. It's under the IT budget, but the question I have on that is, that's supposed to be actually as of now. Is she getting that now, or is that looking just into '24? And if it's now, I assume
She started.
Yeah,
you're paying her out of the department head salary because
That's
it's
correct.
there.
She's been doing the job for almost 3 months.
the 2 months, yeah.
2 months, just starting to get paid, I think, next week.
No, I've been getting paid for a few weeks.
Oh, you have, okay.
Yeah.
Pardon me
Don't
on that.
tell him.
They don't tell Dad anything.
But I mean, but that would be coming from the FY '23, that would be coming out of
Either IT or
the,
assessing.
but I mean, it would be coming out of the assessor's
Yeah.
salary, because there is no assessor. So, I guess my question is, you're asking for that to be put into the '24 budget, assuming that, I assume you're basing that you will have an assessor in at some point, but that would just be for a fallback, if you will, that
That's correct, Joe.
going past July 1st.
I would never do that in the past. There is such a strain. We had an assessor in our office today, we offered her a job. She said, I love where I am. A member of our own Board of Assessors, who's great. I said, stay home, come to us. She said, I just love where I am, and you can never afford me. And she's right. So we're gonna start, I'm gonna do some recruiting myself of assessors I know in the district that I represented in the legislature. I would like to get the person on sooner or later. We got lots of things that Trish can work on in IT and otherwise, so the sooner we can get the person on board, the better.
All right, but the 20 you're asking for would be for 24. She's being paid now out of the assessor's budget for,
Is it out of assessing or your budget?
Yeah, it's in assessing.
It's out of the
I
assessing.
would, okay,
Because we don't have the department head.
thank you.
All right, thank you for that, John. Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, through you, Vaughn, thank you, and thank you for presenting. I know we're going to see you again. I noticed that in the actual FY '22 budget, it was almost 90,000. Then in FY '23, it went up 10% to 100,000. But at 100,000, you weren't able to find somebody who would actually come to work. So you're asking for a 2% bump. Is 2% the magic number to get people who want to stay and work and do the job, or
You know,
what
We
is
don't
the
know.
number if 100
You know, David,
wasn't enough then?
I'm a fiscal conservative, and I'd like to think so, but everything I believed about the market has been shot up in the last 3 months, trying to get people. I don't think it's the money. I think it's a municipality that they're opposed to. I think if we can find a person that wants to work in a municipality in assessing, then the money will be okay. Maybe it'll be a younger person, but we've got what's growing to be a solid 4-person staff, so we don't need a person with 10 years of experience. We can go to the younger person, the 2-year assessor, and train them up. And I hope we can do that. I can't believe where salaries have gone. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dave. Do we have any other questions, comments from the committee on the assessor budget? Hearing none. Questions or comments from the public on the assessor budget? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Trish.
Thank you, Trish.
Next item on the agenda, item 4F, town clerk budget, page 16. Oh.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to
Yes.
recuse myself from this budget.
Another nervous one.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Vaughn, she's another nervous one. Tracy here, she's the expert. You just hold them there. You just hold them there.
Say again, sir? No, I get paid and Mark gets paid, but we're not recruiting, so.
Steph, do you need help passing out the other side?
No, I recuse on the voting.
Oh, okay.
Since Mark is split out, we're gonna remember town clerk as a separate item.
Support my argument, and I need a full-timer.
You don't need that.
We paid for this.
I'm sure it's wonderful. Did you just call me?
Oh, I thought it was Mark.
The top legs, the cummerbund, the whole thing.
Yeah, that's right. I printed out every job that has been advertised, whether it's a union job, whether it's non-union, to show how many jobs that we've advertised. Some got hired, some didn't, some
So,
didn't get
next
filled.
budget here, we have is town clerk's budget, so
I was
let's,
still Harry.
go down a little bit here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Stephanie Carrara. I'm the town clerk, and I'm here to present my budget for fiscal 2024. I have, I passed out some documentations to support my argument that I disagreed with the Budget Committee and the town manager that my office needs a full-time person. I say it does. They suggested to me that it does not, and I could have a part-time person. But I disagree with that.
So may I, Mr. Chairman, just so Steph feels better, as a matter of policy, when the Budget Committee doesn't agree with the department head on full-time versus part-time, we absolutely give them our blessing to argue their case before the FinCom, and we'll be totally supportive of whatever you vote.
All right, thank you very much for that. Please
Okay,
continue.
I'd like to just start off, first of all, before I get into the numbers, with regards to my full-time employee that I want. I've worked in the town clerk's office for many years. We've always had 5 people in the office. It was always the town clerk, it was the assistant, we had 2 senior clerks, and a receptionist. For a reason I'm not going to get into, the receptionist position was cut. It wasn't cut like out of a union, it wasn't funded. I was that receptionist. I had to go upstairs to the zoning office, and I worked there for 10 years. Then budget cuts came, and a previous town manager opted not to fund the building department secretary. I got bumped and got back down to the office where I wanted to be. Having said that, work back then, when I came back to the town clerk's office, was harder than it was the first time I was there. And now, with what we go through now with voting, the workload has increased. Not only has it increased with elections, but it has increased because we now have taken on Board of Selectmen work, and we now do all the licensing for the town of Stoughton. That includes one-day liquor license. That includes common vics, dealing with the ABCC. And my assistant has created a wonderful, wonderful process that anyone could come in, get trained on it, and understand. It's all color-coded. She has a Google sheet. She sends it out to the necessary departments. They answer her. It doesn't leave our office until everything is correct, and it goes upstairs to the Board of Selectmen's office. Having said that, we have taken on Board of Selectmen work. My assistant got her stipend taken away from her, not by this town manager, not by Mr. Tisdale, by previous management. It didn't get rolled into her monies like we were told it was going to. It was, no, you got the assistant's job and you get $4 more an hour. And now, so she does that. And it was, when we took this on, we were told that it was going to be, oh, you're just busy at the end of the year. No. That's not it. We are busy with licenses all through the year. It's busier at the end of the year because that's when the Board of Selectmen likes to vote on their renewals, but we're busy all through the year. And when it's like October, that's when we send out the documentation for renewals, we might as well put my assistant in the back office because we don't see her. She cannot help us at the counter. She cannot help us with the telephone. We just say, go in the back and do it because she's no good to us because she's got 6 things going on her desk. And I don't mean that insultingly to her.
I know what you mean.
So on the documentation that I've handed out to you, if you look at the last 2 pages, I was lucky enough when Mr. Tisdale was the interim town manager, I asked him if I could have one of my poll workers come into the office to give us a hand with things. Another thing that we get to do, which is always a treat at the beginning of the year, is send out censuses. One would think we could go to the collector's office and use the cutter to open it. We did that one year. We sliced every census, and we got to tape them. So that was really fun. So now we have this little young girl poll worker. She has to open them every day that we get them in. People put their water bills, excise tax, everything you can imagine in one envelope. We have to open them so those people aren't late on their bills. And we have to process the dog licenses, different things that are in there. But if you look at those last 2 pages and see the amount of money that we've brought in, last year we didn't have our little temporary part-time person. This year we did. Look at the comparisons of what we brought in for just dogs. We are now online, so you can order birth, death, and marriages online. They come in, they get ordered online, say today, they'll be in the queue tomorrow. We process them that day, and they're out. They're out within 48 hours. So we have hustled and hustled and hustled. But my staff might want to take a day or two off. I cannot tell you the amount of days that I have. I have not been, I don't take time off. I broke both my feet this past December and missed 2 days of work. My staff is being trained. They are attending conferences with me to get, because they want to get all their credits in, because they want to become certified municipal clerks. I have one of my staff that wants to actually be a town clerk, and she wants to go get her CMC and then move on to get her MMC and perhaps leave me, which I'm not happy about. But so that is why I am asking for a full-time person. The amount of election work that we have now have received from the state. We now have no excuse voting. We have vote by mail. We have an election portal that we're going to have again next year when it comes to the presidential primary. We have technically, I wouldn't say technically, I'll say possibly 5 elections next year, depending upon who takes out papers for the selectmen. There'll be 2 seats up. We could have a primary. And when I have early voting, the state is now allowing the cities and towns to opt in or opt out for early voting for local elections. We used to have 20 days before an election for register to vote. So we'd be open at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday.
51. Okay.
They said, oh no, the legislature changed it to 10 days before, which was great. But the 10th day is now on a Saturday. So I now have to be open on a Saturday to see if people want to come in to register to vote. So that's fine, on a Saturday, in the end of March. So we're going to do the test run on Saturday, but one of my employees, one of my workers, either my assistant or my senior clerk, are going to come in with me, and we're going to have to do the test run. And I have to notify the Republican and Democratic Town Committee, and if they want to come in and watch us, they can. So not only is it just the 3 of us pumping out this work, we now have extra duties on us. They changed the ethics. I held off on doing the ethics this year because I knew the code of conduct was coming out, and I wanted that to go out first, and then I'll be doing the ethics. I did talk to the town manager about that, and that's something that the state put on the town clerk's office. So when someone takes their ethics and they bring us their certificate, we keep it, but if it's an employee, we give a copy of that to the HR office. So there's a lot going on in the clerk's office. And I will tell you all in this room, I was so mad at the previous management that I went to my HR director and I said, let's put in 2 full-time people. She said, you're never going to get it. I said, I know, but I'm so mad. Oh yeah, it was totally wiped out. I didn't even get a part-timer. So I'm telling you, we are working like crazy. And those numbers that I have showed you, the comparisons from the end of 2021 till this year, it's unbelievable. And that's because we had an extra person standing at a computer all day, not complaining, processing all of our licenses. We had to show her other things to do because, you know, trying to get ready for an election, I don't want my customers at the counter to wait very long. So she's been waiting on the counter as well. We've trained her on a number of things, and she's a good worker. Not saying that she's not going to apply for it. I don't know. I haven't really talked to her about that. I hope that she does. I know it has to go out to the public. But there's a lot going on in the clerk's office. We've got town meeting, and sometimes I have to close my door, and I can't assist my assistant or my senior clerk. The corrections that we have been getting in because of this new license that you need to fly, the federal ID with the star, I don't know what they did at the Goddard Hospital. I don't know if they weren't wearing their glasses. I don't know if they didn't use whiteout. I have so many errors that I have to correct. And people are mad. Well, I've always had, my mother always called me Judy with an I, not Judy with a Y. I'm like, if you have to get me a doctor's note, you have to go to the hospital, get the records. This is time consuming. And I have home births. Women want to have their babies at home. God bless them. I cannot tell you how many home births I have. The midwives gave out the wrong document. I've got about 5 that came back to me and they said, no, this notarized form isn't right. So now I get to call five mothers that are waiting for their birth certificates that I have to say you filled out the wrong form. I need another person in that office so that I have the dedicated time to get these things in once they're in and get them out.
All right. Thank you for that. I have a quick question before I'm going to take questions on this. There's a request to have a full-time position here instead of the part-time on here.
I asked for a full-time, and it was suggested to me that I had a better shot of asking for a full-time person if I asked for a person to work on our FOIAs, which I get a lot of. And everything has to come through me, but not all FOIAs are for me.
But the full-time person would replace the part-time position on here.
Right, so where it says clerk-public.
5-4.
Right.
Okay.
That's
what
the
would-
position I would want to be
So
full-time.
instead of 25, what would that number be? Assuming that, I guess that's what I'm really asking. What's the dollar amount that increase would be? From 25 to,
Approximately 50,000.
okay, I just was trying to clarify what the number is
Yeah.
on this. So the full-time position would be $50,000?
Approximately.
Approximately.
It would probably be less, but I'm just using a round number.
All right, thank you. Dave, did you have a question?
I do, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. For you, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I always, my heart always goes out to you guys because I've been on, we used to do subcommittees. I used to listen to the general municipal departments, and this kept coming back over and over and over again. It's been going on for years.
Yeah.
I just want to take a step back a little bit. Well, first of all, on the last 2 pages I read, are you saying that this is money that because of the hard work of the 2 people in your department, you're able to justify more spending? Or are you saying because you don't have the extra person, we're losing revenue by not having it? So I just want to understand what the message is
Yep.
with those questions.
What I'm trying to get across to the FinCom is that we bring in more money, we bring in money faster than if it's just the 3 of us. Because there's a lot of times that I'm not working at the counter, I'm doing other clerk work. My assistant is working on licenses, so I have my senior clerk that's getting up, waiting on the counter, doing the mail, opening the mail. doing the Unipay, that now that we're online, doing all like the stuff that is supposed to be being done in the outer office is only one person doing
Right, so
it.
we're not losing money, it's
We're
just that
making money.
we're making, it's a department that makes money in general.
Correct.
That's kind of your
What,
point.
I did this comparison so that you could see that our department with one extra person brings in a lot more money than when it's just the three of us. So that way there, I wanted to show you that my department can pay to have another employee, if you will. I'm like, I just wanted to show you that I was bringing in all that
Yeah, it's
all
not
that
a-
money.
Yeah, it's not a sunk cost with nothing in return, it's not
Correct.
just like
Think,
general.
look at it like this. You pay for something online. It comes into our office the next day. We can get it out the next day with one person processing that work. That might take less, maybe 2 hours to do. Process it, pull the birth, death, or whatever they ordered, and get it out. If it's just the three of us, we print out the sheet. We might get a couple done because we have other work that needs to get done. So we always tell the people 24 to 48 business hours. I can get them out in less than 24 hours if I have that one
So
person
we could
doing
be,
that.
we could become a friendlier town to do business with, we might even attract more that way, because
Yes.
right now it's not as efficient as it could be if we had more people.
It's efficient. I want it to be perfect.
Right, okay. I want to ask this question for you, Yvonne, to the town manager. You started with like a, sort of like a general synopsis of like the state of the town. But the thing that confuses me a little bit is that when we started Finance Committee, when the budget got handed to us, it came to us with this state of emergency where, you know, we had all kinds of issues around the healthcare and everything else. So a lot of the budgets were cut, and now we're taking a 180-degree turn to put things back in. And I saw the meeting last night, so the select board wants to see a lot of the stuff put back in. So are we now, is it safe to say that the structural deficit is no longer a problem? Like we've healed that with the arrangements you've made, with all that insurance advisory stuff that was going on? I want to put it to bed that there's no longer an emergency.
These add-backs in to you, Mr. Chairman, are not in any way directly related to the insurance crises. These add-backs are caused by issues that have come up since we've submitted the budget. For instance, the first two assessments. We couldn't have known what those assessments were at the time that the budget was done. We've got them since. The crises in assessing. We didn't know there was going to be a crisis in assessing. We had to address this and fix that department. Many of the major problems I think you saw on my wall that I choose not to discuss publicly, that are major problems that can cost us a tremendous amount of money and or save us or make us a tremendous amount of money, is the cause that we're moving to an assistant town manager sooner than later. Many of those things in my first month we weren't aware of just yet. I can go right down the list of add backs. The only one that's associated with the health insurance is the one with brackets around it. That due to plan design changes, we don't need the entire $2,074,000. We were able to do it for much less because we're going to make up that amount through plan design and not through cash.
You guys, so thank you. Through you, Ron. Is the backdrop then, we're out of a structural deficit, or in the backdrop of everything that we're talking about, we are still in a structural deficit?
As long as we're using free cash to balance the budget, we're still in a structural deficit. When we can stop using free cash to balance our budget, then we can probably announce that we no longer have a structural deficit.
We're working toward that, Mr. Lewis.
We certainly are.
300,000.
And if I may just say one thing to the board, we're also working with the moderator. This is another task that I made, one of my goals is to make the clerk's office and the moderator's office become one. So my senior clerk is the moderator's secretary. And I know that Diane Dolan thinks that my senior clerk, Samantha Rigo, does a wonderful job and wants her to be your secretary, but she has declined on that. But I do want to let you know that that's another task that we do,
Right.
is moderator minutes.
I'd just like to make a comment, if it's all right. Unless you want me to.
Make the comment, is it relevant to this? Well, you should. Thank you, Dave.
Everything's always relevant.
Thanks.
It's always relevant. So,
Go for it, Dave.
I wanted to just, on one hand, it was sort of like, you see like the census growing where you got 30,000 people instead of 26 and change. But on the other hand, you see less turnout on elections. So how do we grow as a town? I don't know what, and I mentioned that has its own burden on your department, but separately on the election side, which you spend a lot of your time making sure that the elections are running smoothly and all that. But it's shrinking. We're getting, on average, like less than 5% turnout.
We have to remember something on the last election, Mr. Laurie. That was a redistricting election. No one ran against Mr. McCrisky. It was like when former selectman Recupero ran. Nobody ran against him. It was a redistricting year. I called it the town meeting rep election because that's really who had to run. I've created a committee called the Get Out and Vote Committee. And it's kind of in its infancy, and we're kind of just finding our way. And the Republican Town Committee, we tried to get the Democratic Town Committee to come and help us work with it. We haven't really done anything about, we waited till after the holidays to try to get together. But some of the people that are on the committee have trouble committing to certain nights. So we sent out a, hey, when can you guys meet? So everyone's kind of all over the place. We might have to do a virtual. Some people work at night. So it's kind of, it's still there, but it hasn't really been huge. We put notices up on the reader board, the DPW. We put signs up. I'm trying to order a specific sign. It's a sign that Brookline has. I talked to the Brookline town clerk. He's going to get me all the information on where it can get made. He said his DPW people made it. I don't know if our DPW people can make it, and that's no insult to them. It's just that I don't know if they can do it. I don't know if they're going to have the time. It's winter. You never know what kind of weather we're going to have. My husband didn't come home till 4 a.m. last night, and look out there now, we have no snow. So
Excuse me, Stephanie.
Great
It's
job.
right there.
Great job.
I'm sorry, there's no.
But my point is, we're trying to all work together. We've tried to come up with different ideas. Someone suggested on the committee hanging a banner in the center. I said, yeah, that would
I
be
thought
great
that
if
was
the
fun.
town didn't get sued years ago because the banner fell off the wire and fell and hit someone, and
We're gonna,
that town owned, the town owned that
thank you
person.
for that, but Dave, we're gonna try to roll back toward the budget just so we can.
It was, the budget's impacted by the work that's done. She described the workloads that her employees have and having to fill a full-time position in order to lessen the workload. I think my question was perfect.
It's relevant, but you were told more get out the vote, just try to keep us on track.
Honestly, the election and turnout affects their department, okay?
So bottom line is, we are
Right.
working on it, Mr. Laurie.
Do you have a question, Jess?
Yes, quick question for the town manager. Yeah, it's on. Thanks. I'm just wondering what the rationale was from the budget committee side to only give this as halftime. I'm pretty sure Ms. Carrera made the case that this would generate more resources, so on and so forth. So why was this not approved?
Our conversations with staff were more casual. It's the first time we've seen a presentation with this level of detail, which is outstanding. Would you agree to that, Steph?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Not outstanding, but
Sure. I will say this, Dr. Minor, is that when this conversation took place about this position, Mr. Coulter was not our town manager. I worked with interim town manager, Mark, and the budget team. And they explained to me that they had to cut it because they had to make cuts somewhere. Was I mad in the meeting? Yes. Was I yelling in the meeting? No. I can't be mean anymore. I just don't have it in me. But in real life, I did say to Mr. Tisdale, look, I'm going to fight for a full-time person because my office deserves it. You know, I gave you, if you look in that packet, I gave you jobs that have been posted since July to this month. Some have been filled, some haven't been filled, some are union, some are not union. I'm asking, and I've been asking, the previous town clerk, Amy Summers, or Amy Akel now, she asked. Cheryl Mooney asked. We have been asking. We have not had 5 people in that office, I'm going to say, since Marie Schifola was there. And why we don't have a receptionist, I'll just say it's controversial. And if anyone asks me, I can tell you the story offline, privately. But this is needed. Do you know how many phone calls we get a day? And not everyone's pleasant.
Do you have any other?
If I could chip in, Chair, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Just originally, which you didn't see behind the scenes, is when we originally run our numbers in November. And I think you probably all saw the first presentation of the select board where I mentioned the healthcare issue and the water and sewer issues before Tom even came. Then I said, solve the problem. When they originally came up then, and we were in a deficit. So we were trying to balance everybody's needs, and I explained it to Stephanie that I certainly supported somebody for public records, but to hire a full-time person, that's the 50,000 now turns into 72,000 because of the healthcare, and that was kind of defeating the plan we were trying to achieve of balancing healthcare. So, but I certainly respect the need for a public records clerk. Personally, I see at least a half a dozen requests a week coming to my department for public records, and they're extensive. And it's not, it would be perfect to have a point person to make sure those are completed properly and on time.
All right. Thank you for that. Jess, did you have any other questions? No. Adam, you have a question?
So there was some software that you, Mark, had presented, I think it was last week maybe. Does that help with the payment side of these for you guys? I don't remember exactly the licenses and the...
It's for permitting, so probably not for...
Article 51.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, I'm using Unipay, and it's free. They charge a fee to the person, but we're not getting, what's that? Is it a block fee or a trunk fee? They're not taking the trunk fee out of the $10. We're getting all the money that's charged. They're getting the fee part.
Based on your comment just a few minutes ago, are you getting a lot of complaints from the public as they kind of come in and say, hey, I ordered this a few days ago, it's still
We
not?
were getting it last year, and definitely during COVID,
Yeah.
because we had to be on split shifts and stuff. Now, we have processed over 1,100 dogs as of now. Having the extra person, we have all our censuses in. We have maybe about 100 more to enter, and those are changes. And those are basic changes, people changing their phone number, maybe correcting a name or a date of birth or something. That's huge, because in the real live world of perfection, you're supposed to do your census inactives in June, and by July, you're supposed to have that book ordered and in your office. And that's my goal this year. I want to have these things done. It's like the little things in the office that need to get done are slow to get done when it's just the 3 of us. And you can't always have overtime.
Yeah, so you're not really able to hang in there right now, right? Things are getting delayed, things are not getting done.
No, things are getting done with that extra person. Did you see all the money I brought in?
Yeah, no, if you had that extra person, you could get there much faster, much more efficiently.
We are doing the work down like on Thursday nights or our free nights, so that's when all the filing gets done. But right now, I will be honest with you, where we had the flood, some of our stuff's boxed, so we have piles of different things in the office. So, but with that extra person, she's doing the little things, so nothing's getting misplaced, nothing's slipping through the cracks. So when we pack up and go to a different area in the town hall, when we come back and we put everything back, we're not going to miss a beat.
You good with that, Adam? Diane, you have a question?
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. I would truly support a one person. I guess my question might be to our town manager. If we do a full-time person, wouldn't there be other places? I mean, we just talked about human resources that might use somebody. If it's a little slow day at the town clerk's office, they might be able to go across the hall and help with some of that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, when I was the
The other
reception,
thing is,
sorry.
I just want
Oh,
to say
sorry,
the whole
sorry.
thing. If you think it's hard finding a full-time person, don't try and find a half-time.
Right.
Not with anyone with, I don't want to say this politically correct, enough knowledge with what they're doing to be able to function. The last thing, and I've said it for years, you guys need a sign in front of that town hall. It's the only way, you know, every town hall you go by has that nice electronic sign that says finance committee tonight, or any of the departments or things that need people. It would be a nice thing to have an electronic sign.
Thanks, I don't have that kind of power, but thanks for thinking I do.
We have any other questions from the committee on the request from the town clerk's office for an additional person? John, you have something?
Yeah, just, you know, with the time I've been around, I know how far back that got cut, and I am aware of a lot of the history and so forth. And I can say, I don't know why it's been suppressed for so long, to try and get another person in there, let alone to get back to where you were. But I just want to say, you know, I'm in full support of making this a full-time position.
Thank you, I appreciate
And
that.
hopefully we can see that through when we do our voting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. So any other questions, comments from the committee on the request for an additional? Yes, Joel?
I don't have a,
Mike?
Microphone.
Mike?
Make sure you,
sorry.
make sure your mic's on.
the only comment I would like to make, Mr. Chairman, is that I know that agenda items may be taken out of order at your discretion. So if you are interested, could I suggest, while Stephanie is still here, that we also talk about, as the next item, Article 51, the new voting machines?
Yes, we can absolutely consider that when we finish this one here.
Thank you.
That's an excellent idea.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the request for an additional person in the town clerk's office? Okay, any questions or comments on the town clerk's budget from the committee? Do you have a question, John? No. Okay, any questions or comments from the public on the town clerk's budget or the request for an additional person? Please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. Cynthia Walsh, 296 Park Street. As I've mentioned previously, that I don't have an internet connection. So I call the town clerk's office. And sometimes you get voicemail, and sometimes you get do not disturb, do not disturb.
I will say I own that.
All three numbers. And I'm not saying that people are sleeping. What I'm saying is that they need someone to answer the phone. And I can remember when there were 5 people, and then there were 4 people. The town's growing, the responsibilities of the office have increased, and we've decreased the number of people. Doesn't make sense.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments from the public?
Thank you.
Please identify yourself for the record.
I still have Mike too.
Sorry, Bob.
Good evening to the committee. My name is Bob Mullen, your town moderator. I rise to support Stephanie Carrera's, she's seeking the full-time position. Because as we know, our government, is a select board, town manager, and town meeting. And I'm always down the town clerk's office this time frame as we get closer and closer to the town meeting, and also when we have a fall town meeting. I just want to remind everybody, every committee in this town has to post an agenda before they meet. And where does your agenda go? It's a legal document, it has to go to the clerk's office. They have to post it at least 48 hours before. It has to get posted. You cannot post that and have a meeting. So, there's such a demand on this office. That's one requirement. That's a legal requirement, just as important as posting something in your newspaper. Another part of government is to have elections. Again, it goes through the clerk's office, as Stephanie discussed it a few minutes ago. And also, getting back to town meeting, it is our part of our government, which just from the reminders of this committee, you're part of that town meeting. And there's 3 other standing committees. All those agendas go to to the clerk's office. And also, I'm always down there, you know, sitting with Stephanie, popping in on her, and they're busy. There are only 3 full-timers in there. And I, you know, take a lot of her time up a little bit. I try not to, but sometimes I can't make an appointment. I just gotta barge in there, get my job done, because I'm on a time requirement or a time commitment too. And they are too for all the documents they have to file. And they also have the custody for all the documents in town. They're the keeper of the records. So there's a tremendous part of our town government going on in one single office. And when people come in from the street, you see either the treasurer's office, the treasurer office in front, or the clerk's office. And, you know, they either go to pay their bills, or they go to the clerk's office most of the time. You know, and sometimes they just go to the clerk's office to ask for directions, and that takes some time too. It's just a busy place. There's a few times you go there and there's nobody in front of the window, but if you stay there about 5 or 10 minutes, there's always someone coming up to the window. So I just want to remind people that, you know, the election work goes on. You have they're voting by mail. There's local election, town election, state election, presidential elections every 4 years. It all has to take, the clerk's office does all that work. Anything that goes on in town usually goes somehow through the clerk's office. Then she mentioned the ethics code of conduct, that's always going on. And also all the vital statistics, births, deaths, all the other records. It's a very busy place. And I'm always down there because I want to have them do more for town meeting. I like to see, and I'm going to speak on behalf of the IT department when Trish comes up here too, because there's a lot more we can do for town meeting, and that probably helps to get people involved in elections too, to come out and vote. Because, you know, we gotta get more town meeting reps involved, but we gotta get that website more active. And there's lots of things going on. And it just needs more bodies in that office to help me out. So I do obviously support Stephanie's request for a full-timer. So I would appreciate everybody's support here. Across, everybody's watching this on TV, call the town manager's office if you need to get that body in there.
Thank you
Tom,
very
I'll
much.
give you the number all. Maybe you can send them.
I'm just gonna,
Any other questions or comments from the public regarding the request for an additional person in the town clerk's office or the town clerk's budget? Please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Lisa Lyons, and I would also like to support Stephanie's request for an added person. In my last year of having to deal with the town clerk's office, they are very short-staffed for all the work that they need to do. As Bob just reiterated, all the tasks they have to do. They do the best they can, and they are definitely short-staffed. So in this area, I do support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any other questions?
You had me at hello.
well, I want to have that goodbye.
Any other questions or comments from the public?
Go ahead, Dave.
An additional
Go ahead.
person or the town clerk's budget? Hearing none.
Oh, Mr. Vaughn. Dave.
I just want
Chet,
to
did
make.
did you have something?
No, we have Dave.
Are you
Go
going to have
ahead.
Dave speak for you? All right.
Yep.
No,
Thank you.
not for it.
Yeah,
They need to make comments, they should be allowed.
Thank you,
right?
Dave. Thanks.
Through you, Vaughn, I just want to make a comment. I'm going to be in favor of this because I have confidence not only in the leadership in the administration, but also within the town clerk's office.
Thank you.
They have very strong management, the website's up and running. There's a lot of reason to think that I think we're finally going to turn the corner in terms of making the town a friendlier place to work and or get information out to the public. And I'm totally in favor of this. It's long overdue. It's been asked for forever. And I'd love to see an office that people aren't so stressed out trying to keep up with it all. So thank you.
So much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dave. Any other questions or comments from the committee in regard to the request for an additional person in the clerk's office?
Can I just
Chet,
make
you have
one,
something?
one comment? Okay, this, the article we're going to be voting on for online, is that going to help you out in your office? As far as,
Article 51 is for
Yes.
new voting machines.
no, not the voting machines, I'm talking about, permitting, yeah. Online permitting and stuff like that, is that going to help you out?
It would,
Is that just going to help the building
I think
department?
Adam asked this.
I'm sorry?
yeah,
I think Adam asked this. Adam, did you ask this?
Yeah, Adam asked.
yeah.
Oh, you did, I'm sorry,
The answer was it wasn't connected to it or something?
When I talked to Mark about it, we had said that there could be dogs and stuff on that, but I couldn't wait. One of my goals when I got hired for this job was get your stuff online. My stuff is online. That goal has been reached. And the company I'm using, Unipay, isn't charging the town. They just collect the fee from the money that I bring in. And we tell everybody when they swipe their card, there's going to be an additional fee. Are you okay with that? And they say yes. So we're bringing in decent money.
Okay, I apologize.
Oh, no problem.
I just,
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the committee? The town clerk's budget or the request for an additional full-time person in that budget? Hearing none. Any other questions or comments from the public? Town clerk's budget or the request for an additional full-time person in that budget? Hearing none. We're going to jump down to item 19 on the agenda, which is Article 51 for new voting machines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I am presenting for Article 51 are two quotes. Is it okay if I go on?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So, in the state of Massachusetts, there are only two companies that are approved for new voting machines. One is LHS, and we currently are using LHS for our poll pads. When you check in now, we got away from the paper. We have the iPad that we can check the people in on. And the other company is ES&S. I'm going to start with LHS, which is the image cast machine. You'll see the quote there, it's $48.5. And the machine is similar to what we have now, which is the AccuVote. The AccuVote that we have now is almost 20 years old, and it's breaking down. If you were a Precinct 3 member and you had to go to Precinct 3 to vote, which is at the South School, the machine broke down, the spare broke down, and we had to actually hand count that entire precinct that night on November 8th. And it was very stressful for all the workers there. We were very fortunate. I want, Chief Mack is still in the room. Okay. One of her police officers, Matthew Gaeta, was the police officer working that precinct that day, and I just want to say what an outstanding job he did. The machine broke down. Everyone was confident when he had to say, please put it in the hand count. We're having a little bit of trouble. And he made, not only did my staff that was working there make the people feel comfortable, but he really made them feel comfortable. And at the end of the night, Sandra Barrett, Officer Barrett, was there, and she helped my assistant do the counting. So although it was awful, and those two officers made an awful situation better and made the voters feel that their vote was going to count. I didn't want anyone to think there was anything going on. So getting back to ImageCast, if you look at it, it's very similar to what we have now. You'd put the ballot in, the information is on the side, you put it in, there's a little delay, then you would see your ballot count come up. It has start, finish, pretty basic. It has a very large, I call them buckets or tubs, because LHS is anticipating that with our handicap machines that we will eventually be getting new ones of, and it will not cost the town any money because the state does pay for those machines. They are for hearing impaired people, people that have that are blind. Anyone can actually use these machines, but it's more geared for the handicapped person. They want us, when we get them, to attach them to the back of the machine. Now, the machines that we've had from the state, we've had for quite some time, and things at the state moves at a snail's pace. So I'm not banking on us getting any new machines to hook on the back of that large bucket anytime soon. And the bucket stack, the machine itself would be removed. It would be locked in my office. We don't have to have the black bins at the schools anymore. We would have them at the town hall, just stacked up in our vault. Nothing really fancy. They're just very similar to what we have now. If you go to the ES&S quote, I've gotten 3 quotes, and each time they've gone down because I keep watching and I say, hey, you forgot this, hey, you forgot that. So the newest quote that I got as of May 2nd, if you look at it, was $71,575. This one here, I don't think I'm going to need as much as that's on this quote, but I went for what I thought I needed, and that's why I put in for $75,000. If it's less, of course, we would give that money back. This machine, in interim town manager Tisdale was at this presentation. They came in and they spent at least a good, would you say 3 hours, 4 hours with us? Definitely 3 hours presenting how this machine works. It has a smaller bin. It doesn't have the mechanism inside like this to sort the like the hand counts. They all just go in, and then what would happen is the night of the election, the poll workers at the end of the night, once the tape is run, they would pull the ballots out. They would go through each of them, making sure that there's no hand counts, no write-ins. If there is, they put them aside, they give them to the tally clerk writes in.
So is the ESS machine the one that you're leaning toward?
Yes.
Right, so the total amount is $75,000 for that machine then, right?
For the number that for the number. But I think when we were doing this, I could have ordered extra things that I don't think I need quite that amount. But I didn't want to change it because this is only a proposal. It can always go down more.
The $75,000 that gets everything soup to nuts that's needed,
Yes.
the quantity of machines?
Yes. It gets,
Everything.
yes.
All right.
When these people presented their case, just like the other company, they put them through the test. They've had the FBI. They've had all kinds of security looking at these DS2000s. And what I liked about these machines was that they were a little more compact. And they actually had like what looked like a laptop screen. So if you put something in and there's an overvote, it comes right up on the screen, and the warden can say to the person, oh, you overvoted. Is that the race that you wanted to vote for 2 people in, even though it only says 1? The person could say yes, and it's like, okay, and then the warden just taps it, and it goes in. The other bucket, as I call it, on the image cast, they have a certain slot that if someone wrote Vaughn Enochian in for president, it would go into a certain slot. And I don't think that having that large of a bucket is really necessary. I think.
Guess it matters how many people wrote me in.
Correct. But I think that, just so you know, I think that the opening procedures for the DS200 is a little easier than what we than what we have now. They will give us a credit. If I go with this company, they will give us a credit on our AccuVotes. They take them, they give us money off the bill, they take them, then they kind of dismantle them, keep the parts that they need, and they're kind of like an aftermarket part. If there's a city or town that still uses AccuVotes, and let's say something breaks on them and they can't afford to buy new machines, they'll call ES&S, or LHS will call them and get a specific part sent to them so that their machines will work.
All right.
So it's pretty self-explanatory if you go through it.
$75,000 gets all the machines for all the precincts, and we're good to rock and roll, right?
Yes, we don't have to have 2 machines at each precinct anymore because the AccuVotes cannot read the split precincts. But you'll be glad to know for this election, there's no split precincts because it's a local election. Split precincts only come into effect when you have state elections. For this election, we'll only need 1. No, if either of these machines, whichever one I get, they can read the split precincts. Like precinct 2 will come out on the top and precinct 2A will come out on the bottom. It will be much easier for the tally clerks. And the tape is like, not Mylar, but it's like it's a better tape. We won't have to deal with ink. Let's put it that way.
We're ordering 10, so there are 8 precincts.
We're going to have, yes, and we're going to have, during the presidential primary and the presidential election, I am going to set up a central tabulation facility at Town Hall in the Fitzpatrick Room. That way there I'll have a police officer, will be able to put the ballots in, and because I feel, I've learned from 2020, Mr. Wolk, that having teams of people go and help with putting the ballots in, it was just a little too chaotic. It worked, but it was just too chaotic for my liking. And I just feel having a central tabulation facility is a better way to go.
Well, speaking as one of those people who was shoving those ballots in the 2020 election.
Yes.
I felt really weird, okay? So
yeah.
So I take it that all the mail-in ballots are going to still go to the precincts for processing?
I think we can do them at the central tab.
Well, that'll make life a lot easier.
Right. Absentees will still go, if you're absentees will still go, but early voting and that type of stuff, we can do at a central tab. That'll be better.
Any other questions, comments from the committee on Article 51? Laura, you have a question?
Yeah, just really quickly. What's the lifespan of these machines? You said the state machines, you've had them for like 20 years. Is this
the AccuVotes we've had for 20 years? These are a similar
lifespan. Yep. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments from the Joel?
Well, speaking as someone who has almost had tears when I've called up Stephanie and said the machine is jammed, I'd be more than happy to see them replaced.
Thank you.
I think that's a great idea. I think one of the questions that may come up from the public is based on what's been talked about nationally,
Yep.
is the security of the voting machines themselves and whether or not they can be altered to alter the vote.
I have to believe that we've been fortunate in Massachusetts not to have that happen. The difference between Massachusetts and the New England East Coast versus the rest of the country is that the city and town clerks on the East Coast are in charge of the election. It's our responsibility. We go there, we make sure everything's there. The day of elections, even on local elections, I'm driving around. I'm not at my office. Again, why I need another person. But I will say this, like in Florida, they have the county do it. And if you saw the news when they got into, I think this is wrong, I think that's wrong, they literally had a big room with people just pushing those ballots through. Where was the police officer? Why wasn't there someone standing there? Like all these questions where with our elections, we have offices there. And when they have to take the ballots out, like when a presidential election and the machine's just stuffed with ballots and it can't take anymore. They are removed, they are put into a locked container, and the police officer stands there. Those ballots do not go into anybody else's hands. And I know there's people that would like everything to be hand counted, but we're not a paper ballot community. Our town is too large for that. But I respect the people that want that. It's like, Stoughton's not Stoughton. It's, according to the federal census, we have 30,000 people in Stoughton. I have to do with what I'm required by state law.
No, that's fine, and I will affirm the fact that she does drive around during the elections. The last time she brought donuts, thank God, so we were able to manage all right.
I only forgot them once.
Adam, you have a question?
I'm totally in favor of this, so thank you very much.
Yeah, just one quick, I don't know if I missed this, but on one of the quotes from the LHS has
Yeah.
8 units,
Yep.
and the ES&S has 10.
Yes.
Should this be 2 units higher?
ES&S, their hub is in Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and I wanted to have a central tabulation facility, so I wanted to have the 2 machines because I was really impressed with those 2 machines. According to what I can do with LHS is that I can rent a machine, as I talked to the town manager about it, for $5,000, and it's a high-speed counting machine. We would still have the central tabulation area in the town hall. It would be in the Fitzpatrick room, but LHS would come with this machine that's large, and it's a high-speed thing, so all we would have to do is sit there with the ballots and go, chip, 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 like playing a deck of cards,
Yeah.
and they go in, and it reads it really quick. I don't know if I want to spend $5,000. I'd rather just have all have the same machines and.
Yeah. Yeah, so sorry, so there was 8 on the
Right,
LHS one, but 10?
Eight, if I wanted, they said that if I wanted to, because they're so close, because they're only in New Hampshire,
Yeah.
they would either rent me that large machine for $5,000, or I could rent,
Buy it. Okay,
yeah.
I gotcha. Okay, and would that be like every election or major election?
I would
bigger
only do it on major elections. I would always have a spare machine.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to have that 5,000
Correct.
in this year's budget
Correct.
as well.
Because Tom asked me if there was anything cheaper, and I was like, nope.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Dave?
Sorry, this is so long.
Appreciate the presentation, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I just had a first question is, we had the change in the census, but how did that impact the number of registered voters? Have we seen in the last 10 years a dramatic change in
What-
the number of registered?
When we started doing the redistricting, we had a meeting at engineering, and when the gentleman from the state told us, oh, you're 29,000, like 453, I said, no, I think you're wrong. We only have, according to my census that I send out every year, we had only 23,000. And he's like, no, this is accurate. You have almost 30,000 people in town. Are they all registered? No. But I will tell you, voter registration has gone up from 23. We now have about 25,000
25,000 from what?
from the redistricting year, which was 2021.
2021, but no, what was the change?
2020, excuse me,
Change in numbers of registered. You went to 25,000.
for registered voters from 23,000.
23,000 to 25.
Yeah. Yep. So we picked up 2.
Okay, I think, after hearing a lot of the nuts and bolts technology, like describing the hardware and all
Yeah.
this, I just really want to understand one thing. Did anything change in the way the data from each vote is handled? Or is it the same as the legacy stuff that you're trying to get off of? Or is there a communication that takes place with the data that you collect when you're doing this tabulation? Or is the data the same as we've always had?
It's the same. all it is that the machines are newer. For example, I would have a machine set up in the conference room, and I would say, okay, I'm going to do precinct 1. I would have an officer there and whoever else wanted to watch me. I have the card in, all the ballot envelopes are open. We pull out the ballots, we mix them up, we open them, put them through. I don't know, your envelope could be there, but I don't know if that's your ballot or not.
No, I didn't mean in terms of like what you personally know about the ballot in front of you. I mean after it gets through a machine that's new.
Right.
Is the data that's collected on each of those tabulated votes?
Comes out the same way.
And the information's handled exactly the same way as it always has?
Yes, because what happens is right now, at the end of the election, the warden when the polls are closed, the warden has to put through the ender card, and then they can run the tape. For example, with the ES&S machine, and Mr. Tisdale saw this one, is that literally you just open up I'll call it a little cabinet door on the machine, and it says run tape, and you push the button and it runs the tape. Or you hit polls closed, run tape, and it just comes up. And then when it's all done, after you run your 3 tapes, then it says shut machine off, and you push a button and it's off. It's that right now we have to put through the ender card, and then we have to hit a bunch of buttons and then go up. It's faster, and it's more accurate.
The data, the way it gets communicated, whether it's to central or up to the state.
Yep.
It's the exact same
Right.
process.
ES&S has sticks. You put the stick in, they program the sticks, they put the stick in, you put the stick in, and then when each person puts through their ballot, all that information is collected, and then at the end of the night, we would run the tape. We'd say polls are closed, run tape. Push the button, the tape runs. If it's a split precinct, for example, precinct 2 would come out first, then precinct 2A would come out underneath it. Tally clerks would add it up, bring it back.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you were exposing any data.
Dave, I think she's answered the question. Elliot has a question too, so, all right.
Just so the board and everybody
question.
else
Thank
knows,
you.
I can have a representative. I can try to have a representative of each machine at town meeting. So if there's any questions,
Thank you.
Question is there in the implementation, does it include a test?
the implementation is all the poll workers and my office staff getting trained, so we'll know what we have to do, and that we. Yes, because we're going to have to have pretend ballots, color in the circles, put them in, then run the tape to make sure what we voted was correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Elliot, you have a question?
When the ballots go through the machines, either machine or both machines, are they marked in any way to say that this has already been tabulated, this has been counted, and can't be counted twice?
On all the ballots, Elliot, if you ever look at your ballot, there are little black ticks all along the side.
Right.
On each side. Those ink marks, those ticks, are what counts each ballot. And that will go through. No one, as long as I'm the town clerk, is going to vote twice. If someone comes through and then comes through again, because we check in the people right there. If someone tries to say, oh, Elliot came in and now he's pretending he's Howard, they're going to call the cops and you're going to get arrested, and I'm going to call the state.
I'm not talking about that kind. I'm talking about once the ballot is stuffed through the machine.
Yeah.
And tabulated.
Yeah.
Is it marked in such a way that says this ballot has been tabulated?
It's I understand what you're saying, but it's in the bin. So it's not, in order for that ballot to get counted again, someone's going to have to unlock the door, take out that ballot that just was put in, and run it through the thing again, and that's not going to happen.
Okay, so the ballot itself is not marked in any way? It's
Correct.
It's stuck in a box to not be counted?
Right, and,
Okay.
which is
All right.
locked.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, Elliot? Yes. Okay, so it's not marked, it's just in a box. All right, any other questions, comments from the committee? Article 51. Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public on Article 51, new voting machines? Please identify yourself for the record.
Hi, I'm Lisa Lyons in Precinct 2, and I must strenuously object to getting new machines, and I have to explain on two levels. One, financially, given the budget constraints that this town is under and the structural deficit that we are under, and our enterprise funds not fully funded, I think we can postpone getting new machines. As Stephanie has explained, we had a failure at Precinct 3 on primary and secondary machines. So it is clearly evident that machines fail, both in hardware and in software. I will, through you, Chairman Anokian, get the email addresses of all the members in the town and show you software-wise how these machines are and can be compromised without the clerk's knowledge at all. Okay? So sticking initially on the budget issues, I think as a town, and given the state of not only this town but the entire nation, we have to be very conservative with our funds, given inflation and where the bond market is going, that we need to spend our money wisely. Back to Precinct 3, we had a primary and secondary failure, and we were able to count the ballots. I have to respectfully disagree with you that Stoughton cannot count their ballots. We are not too big to count our ballots. France counted their entire country in one day, hand-counted paper ballots. So that is a fact. We are not too big to do that. And I think I already hinted at the second issue is we need full transparency. The only way to get that is here's your paper ballot. It goes into the box and it gets counted. There is no intermediary, meaning the machines, counting them. So I strenuously, on those two grounds, object to this article.
All right, thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions or comments from the committee on Article 51, new voting machines? Hearing none, we will move to the next item on the agenda. We will jump back down to the Town Treasurer Collector, page 12, which is, page 12, yep. Article 26, General Fund Operating Budget, Town Treasurer Collector, item G out of section 4. Do you want to just take questions then, or?
Yes, that'd be great.
I didn't know
I'm,
what you.
I'm Paula
I didn't
Newton.
know what you wanted to do.
I am
so.
the treasurer collector. I was just waiting for John to finish up what he was saying.
We were just saying it's page 12. Anyone have any questions or comments? Treasurer collector's budget. Bob?
Yes, good evening. All right. So currently, you have 6 employees in there, in the office working currently, is that correct?
Yes, one is actually out on family leave.
Okay, so you're down to 5? Okay. And do you know, usually Bill's here, but I'm not sure, do you know what the outstanding balance is as far as property taxes is concerned?
I do not have that figure.
Okay. So I think
I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
don't mean to interrupt. Are you talking about overall?
Yes.
Overall.
Yeah.
I don't know that figure. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, so I think my point being is, as far as outstanding taxes are concerned and what we're doing to collect that and to facilitate that. I don't know if you want to update us as far as, I know we've had a company come in and do a presentation. I think other towns have incorporated that. So I'm just wondering where we stand as far as that status is concerned.
That is correct. I have not presented that to the select board to see if they want to go forward with that.
Okay.
And that would be selling of the tax liens.
Yep.
To get them so that they are paid. I have not presented that to them yet.
Okay.
Sorry.
No reason to be sorry. Just looking for an update as far as that's concerned.
Selling of the tax liens.
That is correct. So it would be selling of the tax liens. They would be.
We had this a couple of years ago.
No, we talked about it a couple.
There was a presentation that was made.
Yes.
That is correct.
Yes, the
That is
town
correct.
sells the lien, you get the money that they pay for the, and then whatever they get, they get.
It's like a factory, yeah.
So just to follow up on that as well, as far as the presentation is concerned, is it to eventually have an outside consultant come in and purchase those like other towns have done, or what?
That is, so what usually happens is the company that you're talking about, and I'm sorry, it just escapes my mind right now, what they do is they ask for the list of who is outstanding, and they go through that list.
Yep.
Because, of course, taxes are public.
Yep.
They go through that list, and they look for the ones that they would like to purchase.
Absolutely, yep.
And then, of course, they're in the audience, and they sit there and they, yep, I want these, and they get them.
Okay.
It is something that takes a lot of work. I will let you know that the former assistant treasurer collector, Jason, he went over to Dedham, and their select board wanted to do something like that also. So he did research it, and he came back to me and he told me there is a lot of work that goes.
A lot of work?
A lot of work that goes
Okay.
with this.
I guess, so you present it to the select board, they approve it, then you have a plan and you go through those steps. So I know it's a lot of work, and especially for your office, it's, the scope, the deeds, the parcels, what you can sell, what you can't sell, what you want to sell. But at the end of the day, I think something's better than nothing. I think I've been here, this will be my 9th year, and I think we've only sold maybe 5 parcels in 9 years from my records.
So that's an auction.
Right,
That's
yes.
an auction of tax foreclosed properties.
Right.
These are two different
Right.
situations.
Yep. But either one would bring additional revenue into the town.
That's correct. And,
Okay. So my point would be, whatever we need to do, whether it's the select board or whatever, let's get it through the finish line and bring in some additional revenues. So, okay.
So we did have just an update on selling of the tax foreclosed properties. We did have committee put together, and we identified probably 10 to 15 items, I would say. And throughout the fact that we had COVID and half of staff and all that, and we couldn't do a lot of things.
Yep.
At this time, the delinquent tax clerk is looking at all of the foreclosures that we have to make sure that we have a decree for each one of them, because I am not going to sell a piece of property that I do not know is a tax foreclosed property. So that's just another undertaking that we have to go through.
I realize it's a long process, but just, I see other towns, like, we've had this discussion, Sharon, they've implemented it. Other times they came in and did the presentation. So I'm just looking for an update, and hopefully we can move forward and get it in front of the board and get the town additional revenue. So, okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. John, you have a question?
Yeah, just to expand on what Bob was talking about, you also have a line in here for your, the land reg record service bureau, and it went from 50 to 20,000. Isn't that the fund that you use to go after properties, to take them?
Yes, and this goes.
Because I know when one of your earlier predecessors, goes back a ways, I was always in favor of bumping this up because it costs to do it. And if you cut this back by 60%, it kind of takes away from what the previous speaker was talking about, which was to move forward and try and get these properties out of delinquency, no matter how it is. But it is a long process, and I know if I'm not mistaken. It's, you have to be a year in arrears to be delinquent, to go after it for taxes.
6 months.
6 months? All right, I thought it was a year. But then even at that, once you start the proceedings, the owner has the ability to make good on the taxes, to keep the property,
That is
correct?
correct.
So, I mean, you can be spending money and end up, you might, well, at least you might get the back taxes in rather than, and not have to take on the property, but then they can start the process again. But
That is correct.
I thought this was the line, and I know
That is correct.
that is the line.
That
I
is
want to
the
make a
line,
note
and
to
that-
see if we can
That goes
bump
back.
that up again. I wanted to get it up to 100 before when it was at 50. I don't want to see it drop down, but,
Goes back to when, November, when we were going through
right.
budgets.
Well, I
at
know.
the time
I
it
know
was
there were
cut.
things going on at the time, but,
And I
but-
did say when they called and said, could you cut this line? I specifically
well,
said.
you can always cut
"I
it, but it
need
takes away
back.
from.
I need it back next
Because,
year.
and I think that was, maybe that was what the previous speaker asked. You don't know what that sits at today, right?
The tax
The
title?
delinquents? No, the total delinquent tax.
I do not, no.
Because I know it was in the millions at one point. I don't know how far down it's come, but I know it's,
So it goes up and goes down. We just did our fiscal year 18 tax taking. I'm sorry, fiscal year 19 tax taking. That was 22 parcels. So as we get payments in to redeem the tax takings, we then put more on because
Sure.
people are going into delinquencies.
all right, now I'm going to make a note on that line, because I know it takes a bit to do one, so to cut it back just ties your hands in trying to do anything with them, so. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments from the committee on the treasurer's budget, treasurer collector's budget? Diane, you have something?
I was just going to ask that.
We're n- That is correct. I have a staff of 2 people, and we bill out 11,000 bills just for real estate taxes every quarter we're collecting. We send out 30,000 bills for motor vehicle. Water, sewer, trash is probably, I don't even know how many bills that is because I don't do the actual billing. But I do not have enough staff to accept all those payments. That's why we send them to Medford.
How about now, most of us are, I shouldn't say most, a good percentage of the town is paying these online, all through online thing. I paid my excise tax online, wish I could do the water bill online.
Yep.
I just throw it all together, but do the taxes as well.
Right.
So, but I would be curious to know what we're paying this company.
We're not. We're not. We're actually earning 1.77 interest rate on our monies.
So we pay 0.
That is correct.
Where does it go in Medford?
It goes to a lockbox, which is Easton Bank, and Easton Bank then takes care of.
Oh, so the bank picks up the check. Aha.
Correct. Oh, yes,
Good with that answer, Diane?
absolutely. Absolutely. We probably, between real estate taxes and excise taxes, for the first 3 months of the year, we're probably giving them, or not giving them, but you're paying to them about $15 million. Now, we are earning 1.77%, and we're not paying any fees, but they're able to loan that money
Use
out
the
at
money.
a much higher rate.
I did not know that.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah,
So they're
You have a-
actually taking and depositing all the checks.
That is correct, and they're depositing them, and they're also giving us a file that we upload into our system, and so that all the payments get posted.
And that goes into the
Earning
general
money on
fund,
it,
I would
too.
assume?
That goes into the general fund, yes.
That seemed like a great to go until last week, huh?
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Adam, you have a question?
Yeah, just how does that work again? So we pay the the money goes to the bank.
Yep.
What's the timing of that? So the
The
bank,
same day. So
so it comes back to us?
So
How
if-
are they earning money off of that? If it goes to them, right back to us?
Because the money is staying within the bank account.
So it's our bank account
That is correct.
at their bank?
That is correct.
Okay,
That is correct.
okay.
All right. Any other questions, comments from the committee on the treasurer collector's budget? Elliot, you have a question?
Just a quick one. I never knew Mr. Laurie is going to follow.
I think you need to speak, yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe Elliot will steal Dave's question.
Did I hear you say you could pay these property tax bills and all the other ones with a credit card?
You can online, and I'm actually looking at Elevon, which runs through Rockland Trust, and I will have 2 swipe machines at the counter. So you will be able to pay. Yeah, I know. Isn't that awesome? Yes, there will be a fee to the taxpayers, but we will not pay it's the
Okay,
same thing
so
as like the clerk's office.
If I do it with a credit card, I pay a fee because I'm using the credit
That
card.
is correct. I know. I'm sorry.
Nice question, though, Elliot. That's a good question. Any other questions or comments from the committee on the town treasurer collector's budget? Dave?
Oh, is it my turn?
I couldn't see you over there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I just wanted to go back to the previous speaker when they mentioned about how collections were slow and we were looking to the outsource thing. And I remember it pretty clearly. My feeble memory might fail but a little bit on this, but back in the day, our collections were like one of the worst in the region, if not the state. It was like pathetic. We were like 9%. It was like some outrageous numbers. Like it was mentioned millions of dollars of slow paying. You know, our people weren't paying their bills very timely. So we were looking at these options at the time. It made a lot of sense because we needed to, speed up the payments. So along came COVID. And then the printing press at the federal government came into action, and now everybody's starting to get their pockets lined with a lot of money. The way I remember it, if I'm not mistaken, is that collections started to improve when people started having money in their pockets to spend.
They did, actually. Fiscal year 20 was probably our better of the years that I've been here. But we collect about 98.5 to 98.7% of every commitment that goes out there.
That's great.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's improved quite a bit from when it was pre-COVID.
It was actually about 98.5.
Oh, it was back then.
Yes, when I got there, it was about 98.5.
Oh, so we haven't seen
Yeah.
that sharp of an improvement. It's been pretty steady.
It's
at
been,
that,
yeah, we're
regardless of the
correct.
the free money.
Correct, but
All right,
fiscal
thank
year
you for the
20 was
question,
the
though, Dave.
best.
Any other questions or comments from the committee on the town treasurer collector budget?
One quick one.
John?
The bills that you get at the Dropbox at Town Hall, though, you process, correct? You don't send those off to
No,
Metro?
we do send those up also.
Oh, you do? So the only ones that you actually
Is the
collect are the
counter.
ones that people come in and pay at the counter?
That's correct.
So even the lockbox does get sent out?
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're
I never knew that, I didn't know that went to a bank that we had. That was a very good question, Diane. I never knew that, all these years.
Any other questions, comments from the committee on the town treasurer collector budget? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public on the town treasurer collector budget? Hearing none. We'll move to the next item on the agenda. Item H, Historical Commission.
Page 46.
Page 46. I don't know who would answer these questions here. How much is this budget?
This is $800 budget.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments on the $800 Historical Commission budget? Any questions or comments from the committee? John said it's on page 46, and Mr. Calter said the same thing. So between the two of them, I think it's accurate. Questions or comments from the committee on the Historical Commission budget? Hearing none. Questions or comments from the public on the Historical Commission budget? Hearing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, the Select Board budget, which is on page 5. So this is reduced 17.3%. Anybody want to speak to this or any questions on this? Any questions or comments from the committee on the select board budget? Any questions or comments from the public on the select board budget? Hearing none, we will go to the next item on the agenda. We will go to information technologies.
Chairman, if it's possible on the information technology budget, if we could also take Trish's
Article.
capital article.
Yeah, we can do that. We'll do them both together.
Thank you, sir.
These chairs are terrible.
So the budget's on page 15. Everyone has the information on the infrastructure upgrade project, which is Article 47. Okay?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, we'll bundle them together. First, we'll kind of cover the budget and then weave the questions in case any.
Sure.
Okay. What page is this on, John? Page
This is on page.
15. Page 15. Anyone have any questions? Do you want to say anything about this? Or?
I've had no changes.
Okay. There we go. Questions or comments from the committee? Information technologies? Joel?
Trish, your specialist, the FTEs are 1.2.
Oh, yes. So there was an error. That's been corrected from last year. So it was a typo last year. So that's, my FTEs are correct. Last year it was not, and it wasn't.
It's corrected
The FTE
2.4.
is
Yeah.
2.4.
Yes, yes, it's correct. Yeah, it's correct now. I don't know how it got through last year. We didn't pick that up.
Okay.
Thank you, sorry, I should have.
Any other questions on this
A
budget?
comment,
John?
just a reminder that
Yes.
this is the department, they're looking to add the $20,000 for the department head for managing the assessing department.
Unless you
Would that be put, well, either way, would that be put in as a stipend?
Yes.
Okay,
It's in the list, it's in the IT department now, John, the question is.
right, but I mean, that would,
Like to see it in assessment.
that would be listed as a stipend, not put within the salary itself.
That's exactly right. And the question we have is, do you want that next time we give you another iteration of this? Do you want it in the assessing department or in the IT department?
We don't expect to get any more iterations of add-backs
This may be
because
the only one.
we're only going a couple of more weeks and. But, all right, but that would be a that was the main point, that it would be a,
Question is, where would you like to see it? Or does it-
I don't want to see it.
Any other questions or comments from the committee, information
No
technologies?
guidance on that?
Excuse me?
We want to accommodate your needs.
That would be something that would come up during our deliberations on whether, if we're going to support it, where would we put it? And
Dave, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Through you. Thank you for presenting your budget. I just had a quick question. I know you do a lot of endpoint, you do a lot with the Wi-Fi, you do a lot with just overall environment, making sure everybody's working productively and all that. How many systems are you, like I noticed, like we're going to have an article, and we're bringing it in with this, that there's applications that are running at the police station? Which
Yeah.
applications are you actually hosting on the municipal side? Because I know a lot gets hosted on the
Right, a
school.
lot gets hosted over at the school. We have the phone system at Town Hall, which part of the article is for me to move it from Town Hall over to the police station. And then we have the virtual environment over at the police station.
What's at the police station?
They have their own virtual environment over at the police station, which is an upgrade back from 2016 to 2017. When I first came here, it was implemented. So that's never been upgraded.
Is that running police applications or just?
Yep, their file server stuff and police applications, yes.
Oh, they have both there.
Everything there, yeah.
Okay, you don't have, the data needs to stay within your four walls?
Yeah.
Is that why it's not at the school, for
Yep,
example?
yep, yep.
Okay, and that must be compliance, I imagine. Okay. That was primarily what I was curious about, what applications there were.
Yeah.
And they're specific, very
Yeah.
specific to public
And just so you know, I usually don't come, I try not to come in front of this body and ask for money. So I applied for grants, seriously. I was exhausted. I exhausted all avenues trying to get a grant for this upgrade and couldn't get it. So even, my switches, my firewalls, I get grants for all that stuff.
So some of the questions I have to do, are you also running fire department applications, or do they not need applications the same way like the police department would?
Well, they utilize IMC at the police station.
At the police station?
Yep. But their file server, their files are at the school.
So fire shares the data center infrastructure that's in
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess what I was wondering is that how long do you see the future of hosting applications in the town? Like, for example, on the voice side, you mentioned you're moving the phone system.
Yeah.
Is it always going to be hosted by us, or is it going to the
Yeah.
cloud?
Yeah, it's like we're node 1 and the school is node 2. So we do that for redundancy so that we can switch over to the other phone system. Where it's located right now in the basement of Town Hall, and that's why I'm asking for part of this article, is that the police station, there's always somebody there, 24 hours a day. We had that little flood thing, and the electricity went out, the phone system went down in our building because it couldn't go over the generator. But it's kind of like a makeshift area, server room down in the basement. So there's and our facility staff is great. They've reconfigured the air conditioning to point on the equipment, but it's like, I have to go in there a couple times a day just to check on the temperature. It would just be much more efficient if I could combine both environments and put it over in that location. So that's why I'm asking for it. But like I said, I reached out to Senator Timilty, I reached out to everybody, and I applied for as many grants as I could, so I wouldn't have to come in front of this body.
Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Thank you for not wanting to come see us. Joel, you have a question?
Trish, I have a very quick question on the line item called Purchase of Services, $284,000. Could you give us some indication of what that actually consists of?
Sure. I actually, and usually,
Spelling it out,
I get asked for a detailed report, and I didn't get asked for it, but I do have one if you would like it.
I would.
Okay.
That would be great if you could email that out.
I'll email it out.
Perfect.
And, yeah, and I do it every year. I've been doing it since 2018. Vaughn loves this.
I do, and I kind of expected it to show up, and
I
it
just
didn't,
figured
so.
it's the same thing every year, so I thought maybe
He
you
was
didn't
very
want it, but I would be
disappointed
more
it
than
didn't
happy.
come in.
The reason we show up here tonight is because of that report.
If you can email it, I'll distribute it.
I love it. I will. I'll email you
thank you.
guys.
Any other questions? Mark, you have a question?
Yes, through you, where this is going to be moving over to the police station, is there room over there?
I do have a little server room. It's much more efficient than where I am in the basement. I figure, yeah, I mean, it's small. I get the air conditioner, but I don't have the issues that I have in the basement at Town Hall.
So there's enough room and
Yeah,
everything? We don't.
There is enough room.
Adam, you have a question?
Cybersecurity insurance? Cybersecurity insurance. So we had some of it on the school side that we heard about. What about the municipal side? Where is
I have it
that?
under centralized purchasing, I believe it's under. It's not under, I do have firewall monitoring 24/7 that we pay.
Mhm.
And when you get my little, I know, I should have just sent it out to you guys, but I asked for a budget increase last year because we beefed up our cybersecurity. So I have monitoring on our firewalls 24/7. And actually, the school's going to be, when I upgraded it, we incorporated the school environment, and now we're doing an additional add-on for that. So, yeah, I have this little list.
Okay.
Stoughton is the name of the company that we use.
That's the cybersecurity or the insurance on?
Yeah, Stoughton is the cybersecurity. The insurance, they pay under
Separate.
central purchasing. I don't pay for that.
Gotcha.
But I
Thank you.
figured I'd answer your question about cybersecurity, just saying protection-wise, we're proactive in the department to make sure we're covered.
All right.
'Cause
Any other questions, comments from the committee in the Information Technologies budget or Article 47, Data Center Infrastructure Upgrade Project? Well, Dave was asking about that.
I
so
want to
that's why-
thank you for the package you did send us on that. It was very helpful.
Oh, you're welcome.
So the total cost of 47 is $150,000, right?
Yeah, it's $150,000.
All right.
So what that entails is an upgrade to the server environment over at the police station. There are switches over there, the servers, and to incorporate the servers from over at the town hall into that location.
All right, great. Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the committee? Information Technologies budget or Article 47, the Data Center Infrastructure Upgrade Project. Joel, you have a question?
Sure.
47,
Yeah.
Wally Computer.
Yeah.
I know Wally Computer has a state contract. Are
Yeah.
you doing this under their state contract?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
and I'll
thanks.
be working with procurement once. I really hope it gets passed. Like I said, I try not to go in front of this body, and I try to get grants, because I know money's tight, so.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the committee on Article 47 or the IT budget? Hearing none. Questions or comments from the public on the Information Technologies budget or Article 47 Data Center Yes.
Good evening again,
By
Bob
yourself.
Mullen, town moderator. I just want to give a shout out to Trish. She works closely with the town moderator during town meeting and everything, and also the town meeting reps. She's always there for us to get the information out on the website real quick, around the clock sometimes. She might, when I call her, she might roll her eyes, but I don't see that, the roll of the eyes or anything, but she does respond very quickly, so I support her budget. Hope you all support her IT department and her budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the public on the IT department budget or Article 47? Hearing none. We'll move to the next item on the agenda. Town council.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank
You
you.
know what, I'll send out that list, and if you guys have any other questions, email me, okay?
Thank you. Town council, page 3. Is it?
I have a question. Does not. But I have-
So it's the same as it was before. Do we have any questions or comments? John?
Yes, I do. Just a quick question. Your predecessor had made a proposal to the board back a bit when she wanted to change council and so forth, but there were certain conditions where they could use extra counsel and what have you. And I believe the board did vote that, and I know I have a copy of what they had voted. And I was just wondering if that has been changed, could we get a copy of it? Because at the time it was proposed, they were going to keep a particular firm for town meeting, because we had gone so far into the year. And it was pretty clear in the contract that town meeting was excluded. And it was the new firm that showed up every night for town meeting, so I'm sure we were paying it by the hour. So I was just wondering if the contract had been updated, and if it hasn't, maybe it should be because of the way they had set that up. So yeah, just a point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joel, you have a question on this?
Just following up what Mr. Anzavino says, my just simple question is, who is town council now?
So there's a company called Mead Talaman. It's the same firm we used in Kingston, so I'm very familiar with them. They're unique in that they give you a lump sum with a certain scope of work, so the legal costs don't escalate out of control.
What's the name of the company again?
Talaman and Mead.
Talaman and Mead?
Talaman and Mead, J. Talaman, and this is Mead.
And that's why I asked if they had updated, because it was very specific what they would cover. I assume they're still doing the in-house hours.
They're doing the in-house.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
They're there from 8 to 12 on
You gotta
Thursdays.
turn on your-
Thursday.
Oh, sorry. 8 to 12 on Thursdays,
Thursdays.
sometimes till 1 or 2, depending on the situation.
All right.
It's actually been very helpful.
But just as a point of information, maybe you want to look at that to see. If you haven't seen it, maybe you should ask for it, or I could send it to you, but.
I thought you want me to send it to you.
No, I'm asking if it's been revised, because it was very specific what they did.
Yep.
and what they were planning on doing for other items. And I know some of those other items fell through right away, and new council ended up taking it over. So if they revised the contract to include that, or not, I know this hasn't changed, but I was just curious.
Pull it up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Where the
Any-
legal fees are going, if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
Easy. Jack Dolan is the legal counsel for HR. He's specifically an HR attorney. So that's $24,000 a year. Talaman is $14,000 a year for a total of $168.
Yeah, 14 a month.
14 a month, total of $168 per year. Kate Federer, who's an associate of Talaman, but just strictly does labor contracts and labor relations, she's at $80,000 a year. That was outside of the Talaman contract, at least if it's the same as Kingston, but I'll look into it for you.
All right, great, thank you.
And KP Law is $25,000. The other company, the outgoing company that's just finishing up old cases.
All right. Thank you very much. Joel, you have another question?
Does this firm have a specialist in public construction law? I know some firms do.
Yep. They do construction law, they do labor law, they do contract law.
Okay.
And they do mostly all municipal law. They will do our training in conflict of interest, open meeting law, public records laws, all the things we're responsible for.
Well, I was just curious about the construction end, because I know it's a bit of a specialty.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the committee on the town council budget? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public? Town council budget. Hearing none. Moving to the next item on the agenda. Item L, auditing and analytics. Page 9, yep.
But I just want to point out that the agendas were done based on what the budgets called for. And this particular department has been rolled into the town accountant on page 8, which we had already covered, so just.
So do we have any questions on auditing and analytics from the committee? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public? Auditing and analytics, hearing none. Go to the next item on the agenda. We will go to debt service excluded.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I request that the way, I think you spoke to me about this, will Bill be here when we do those categories?
Well, if we have questions on it, if we have questions and they can be answered, we'll just bang it out now. Do we have any questions from the committee on the debt service?
I'll wait until a future date. Fine with me.
Well, if you have a question that can be answered, like,
I sent an email to you.
yes,
Ron.
and I forwarded that to Mr. Rowe.
That's why I'm willing to wait.
All right. Any questions, comments from the committee? Debt service excluded, yes, Joel?
Yeah, I actually do have a question, but it's particularly for Bill Rowe. So what do you want me to do? Should I send it to you via email, or?
Yeah, I guess you can do that.
Why don't I do that? I'll do that tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee on debt service excluded? Any questions or comments from the public on a debt service excluded? Hearing none, we'll go to the next agenda item, debt service. Any questions or comments on debt service?
Same thing.
Okay. No questions here that Mr. Calter can answer? No? All right. Any questions, comments? None? Any questions or comments from the public? Debt service. Hearing none. Next item agenda, item C, section 5, health insurance, Medicare taxes. Perfect.
51.
Page 51.
I can say before D gets into the details, the number that you had was $12,722,689 for group health insurance. That number has been reduced to $12,250,489.
You mean that's the request that the select board, okay, what was the original number? 12 what?
$12,722,689.
Okay, that's in the budget and the select.
690 in the budget.
690 in the budget. Okay. Do we have any questions or comments from the committee on this? On health insurance, Medicare taxes, that budget? Bob, you have a question?
Yeah, can you just give us an update as far as what's transpired? I know we had some conversations, we had a presentation, we're going to have some meetings, so I guess the floor is yours. We'd like an update.
Just give a high-level details.
Please, thank you.
We had a series of meetings with all 15 unions, and including schools, and just to, give them the credit they do, they came up with some outstanding ideas on plan design without passing 32B, which is the state law, which allowed us to do plan design unilaterally. We reached an agreement and were able to find substantial savings in plan design with respect to deductibles, co-pays, and the like. So our cash requirement through this has been reduced by the amount of savings we got through plan design. So Dee, would you like to add to that?
So the 12,722,000, I believe that the supplement sheet that was given to you has a negative 429,000.
That's right.
So that could be reduced, and that's what we found with, when we made the original calculation, we had a 30% rate increase. That was before any sort of plan design changes. Obviously, everybody was upset about that, so we all got to the table and we came to some plan design changes, which actually resulted in a 4.9% savings. So at that point, the 30%, when we had Gallagher, who is our consultant, run numbers, we had a good month of January. The claims didn't go over the anticipated amount. So it, actually, we weren't at 30, we were at about 28.5, I think it was. And then when we take off the 4.9, we end off with, they were using an anticipated amount of 23.51. On March 28th, we will have a final number to move forward with for July 1st. I figured instead of going out to 23.51, because I didn't want to be too low, I put in for 25%. So that 429, that actually might even be a little greater by the end of March, but we won't know until Gallagher gives us our numbers.
We'll be getting actuarials.
Can we get a copy of the plan design change?
Sure. I can email that to you.
Great.
We actually have the agreement. We also have put in
We
place.
got the agreement, but we didn't actually, there was no attachment there
Oh,
that
okay.
had the plan design.
There is a page in there that has the plan design changes, and then it also has the opt-out plan that's been adopted by the board. So, and I think we will have quite a few people interested in that.
Because we got the draft,
Yep.
and the two exhibits weren't included, but if that's been finalized, it
It
would be
has.
nice if we,
Finalized.
it would be nice if we could get the
It was
complete,
codified by all 15 unions.
Beautiful.
Voted by the board without passing 32B.
beautiful.
It's a great victory.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Will you send those?
Oops, I'm sorry. You said deductible co-pays, and what was the third portion of that?
So there's the benefit changes are, there's an individual and a family plan deductible. The co-pays went up we now have a specialist co-pay, which we didn't have. It was always the same. And we have the regular co-pay did increase also. We also increased for CAT scans, MRIs. We never had a co-pay for that. Now we have a co-pay for that. The inpatient and outpatient remained the same, and the emergency room did increase. So what we did was we went to half of the GIC benchmark. So instead of, we could have gone under 21 to 23, we could have gone to the full. We've agreed with the unions to go to half of the bench.
Okay, and so those numbers were crunched by Gallagher, and they came back and,
Gallagher crunches the numbers on a monthly basis, and we had a good month of January, so that 30 came down to like 28 and change.
28 change.
Can't say February was the greatest month, but it wasn't bad. I mean, I pay the claims every Wednesday, so I see them come in every Wednesday.
Okay.
Bob, I'm sure you'll be happy to know, we took their recommendations to the penny. Didn't try to discount them or do anything.
Okay.
And the second thing that's important is we required from them an opinion letter that this does fix the problem. We're not gonna be back here in a year, 2, 3. So we made them document that this fixes the problem.
We can get a copy of that too, right?
Send them all to you.
Thank you.
And one last one, on your information that you gave to us, on here you said, educate all town and school employees on cost-saving measures for town health insurance. Can you share some of those with us?
So a lot of those companies on the front, like Pinnacle Care, Save On,
Yeah.
Abacus, those are all additional things that we offer. So Abacus, for example, is a diabetes program, so we try to get people to sign up for it. They don't
Okay.
have, if they do all of the things that they have to, like go to the eye doctor, the foot doctor, all these different things, they don't have any co-pays for their, any of their supplies.
Okay.
So it's kind of like an incentive to use it. Save On is another type of program. Pinnacle Care reaches out to people with specific medical conditions, and they follow up with them to make sure that they're doing the care the right way. Stoughton Meds is a specific list of formulary drugs that if you enroll in it and you sign up for it, you don't have a copay, but we
Okay.
get it for a much, quite a
Cheaper.
reduced rate.
Okay.
My telemedicine is, that's just part of the health insurance. If you call up My Telemedicine, you have a sore throat, you need to get a prescription, whatever, there's a list of things you can do, no copay, and the town isn't charged a
And no
dime.
cost.
Right.
So instead of going to the walk-in clinic, you do it through that, and it doesn't cost anything.
So you review that with all the new hires?
We constantly do. We
Okay.
actually, we were having an issue, I think, it finally has been resolved with the school. The school employees, not the school, they didn't want us to send the emails to them. We had a lot of people complaining, I don't want this in my email. So now that we've been meeting with the unions, we're gonna send it to the union, and the union's gonna send it to their people. So,
Great.
and they've now come to realize, like, we need to spread this word about all these things, because we pay our own claims. So if you wanna keep your claims low, you need to utilize these things.
And we offer a flexible spending account?
We do. And
We
we
do?
will be encouraging everybody this year, when they enroll in December, or if they don't enroll, to at least cover their deductible.
Beautiful.
And we are hosting, through you, Mr. Chairman, an employee healthcare fair on May 4th or 5th.
No, it's, I think, the 15th. It's Thursday, and it's at the school. It's gonna be at the high
It's
school
at the
this
school,
year.
and it's for employees and their significant others. And it's purely we're not trying to have providers sell them products. It's all about education.
We'll have all of the vendors there, which we normally do it in the town hall on the third floor, but we don't usually, and we always do it to try to do it after school time, so that people can come, but this year we might see more, we might see more people.
And we're encouraging the significant others to join us.
Thanks.
It's gonna be at the high school, yes.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions? Dave, you have a question on health insurance, Medicare taxes, budget?
You could be right.
Thank you very much.
I'll give you that. You might be right.
The town manager has answered my first question, so my biggest thing was, is this done, like, are we gonna see this again in FY '24? Is it fixed for FY '24? Because we got hit between the eyes unexpectedly, and then we went to the schools, and we got their generosity to step in and fill the breach.
Yes.
So this is 24,
So
this is
it's
the
a
phase 4,
one-time-
24.
It's a one-time need to get that kind of assistance, because it's now not gonna be heading in the wrong direction, right?
That's the advice given to us by Gallagher, who's our consultant. We have every reason to believe, and they wrote it in their opinion letter, their actuarial team, this is what they recommended to us.
Right, so the schools will be able to rebound in subsequent years on all the things that they need from the state aid that comes to them.
Sure.
They'll be able to rebound in FY '25.
Yeah.
Okay, so my other question, and this has been getting me for months, for weeks, I should say, anyway. It's been bugging me that I didn't see it coming. I don't know.
Nobody saw it coming.
But how does Gallagher
We
get
actually had discussions on this in the past.
Well, we didn't know, because you have to understand that we had a very healthy trust fund of 9 million, 8 and 5. Your recommended trust fund balance is around 4 to be, to feel like you're safe. We had a lot of money in the trust fund. We didn't see this decline until 22. 22 to 23 is when we started seeing, July was $2 million in claims this past July. We don't know if it's because of, and you have to remember, last year, we had over $2 million in reinsurance back to us. So that comes back. So there's all kinds of factors that play, but as far as nobody saw this coming, we had a healthy trust fund. How could we justify, and I don't want to put blame on any prior town managers, because we all sat together, we all tried to balance a budget. We didn't want to be able to have to come up with a 10% rate increase when we had $8.5 million sitting in the trust. So it was looked at each year. We have a healthy trust. If we have to cut into it for 500,000, if we go over in claims, we had 2020, we didn't really have a lot of claims. That saved us. COVID year saved us. We're now coming into hips, elbows, knees. Everything's getting replaced. Everyone's going out and getting the surgeries they didn't get. 22 to now, it's just.
Dave, I think it's only fair we defend Gallagher. They made the appropriate recommendations.
Every year.
But, you see, I didn't know, are there missing questions that we should be asking that would have given us insight ahead of time? But I know it's only a one-year event.
Well, Gallagher, like you said, Gallagher came back with a 16% rate increase and a 20%, and we were doing a 2. Well, actually, what really killed us was when we went to the 3 plans down to the 1. Instead of taking we had a Blue Cross Blue Shield rate, a Tufts, Harvard Pilgrim rate, and a Tufts rate. Blue Cross Blue Shield was 15% higher than Tufts. Harvard Pilgrim was 14%. We went with the Tufts rate. They recommended 8% higher than the Tufts rate, right off the bat in 2018. We didn't do that. The following year, we didn't have a rate increase. The reason the town manager did that was she was trying to get the unions to agree to go from 3 to 1. And that's the way she did it. She said, if we go to the 1, we're going to hold your rate. The next year, they held the rate. Then they only did a 2% rate increase. This was against Gallagher's recommendations. This was not.
And it didn't work out so well to
Right.
do it that
It
way.
did
So,
not. You are correct.
Dave, did you get your question answered with that then? I'm just checking, that's all.
Vaughn, if I may just supplement what Dee just said, when they made a recommendation of 8 or 10 or 16, we have to pay 70% of that. And in defense of prior town managers, prior boards, of everybody, we didn't have, Bill Rose said it perfectly when I first met him. I said, why didn't you make this payment? He said, we didn't have the money. You know, we're already deficit spending, as we all know. This year was $800,000 for us to cover our portion of it. So it was a difficult problem with no good solutions. Everybody thought the solution was right around the corner post-COVID. The reality is post-COVID, it spiked because people had elective surgeries done.
I just never met Gallagher in the 7 years I've been on the finance committee, and I'm guessing that even though he's a nice guy, he's not the person you want to have in front of you very often, I'm guessing.
Oh, we meet with him all the time. He's a very nice guy. We meet with him. He did, actually came, we were in this room and we presented, John was at the meeting, we presented, Gallagher came and presented to the select board, and John was here.
They've been
the
an
school
extraordinary
committee.
partner. We didn't follow their counsel.
So do we have any other questions or comments on the health insurance Medicare taxes budget? Diane?
So when it comes down to it, through you, Mr. Chairman, what is the increase? What is the percentage?
At this rate, we will know on March 28th when they come in. What was put as an estimate in the document that was signed was 23.51%. We will know once they get January, February, and March into the numbers.
Any other questions, comments from the committee on health insurance Medicare taxes budget? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public? The health insurance Medicare taxes budget. Please identify yourself for the record.
There you go, man.
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. First, if you project your voices, the battery has died in my assistive device. Maybe the assistive device is hinting. I'm a state retiree because I'm a municipal teacher. And my question is, there has to be a few town employees with what we call complex medical issues, like mine, are similar. Or maybe the family has complex medical issues. Is there a case manager from somewhere to assist those folks? We can tell people, don't do this and don't do that, but if you have a child with a complex medical issue, or a spouse, or you yourself, there kind of needs to be a point person, other than your PCP that you can never get, that can, associated with the insurance, that can give you,
Excuse me.
I guess I get a quarterly phone call. And part of it is to remind me about the eye exams, the foot exams, because I am a diabetic too. It's also my understanding that in the state of Massachusetts, there cannot be a copay for diabetic supplies. Well, someone should check that.
We do have a service that the health insurance company, and then we also have Pinnacle Care, and they do reach out to people with specific, and they go through the claims, and that's how they do. But they do service those people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the public? Health insurance, Medicare taxes? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, townwide expenses and insurance. Page 52. What's the increase on this one?
10%.
10.6.
10%. Questions or comments from the committee on townwide expenses and insurance? Hearing none. Questions or comments from the public? Townwide expenses and insurance? Hearing none. We'll go to the next item on the agenda, unemployment, item E.
Page 53.
Page 53.
You're going to be back on 52 for retirement. Yeah,
What's the increase on this one?
unemployment.
Unemployment, page
Unemployment.
53.
This says it went down 54.5%.
Down 54.5%.
For that, and then the others.
Any questions or comments from the committee on the unemployment budget line? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public on the unemployment budget line? Hearing none. Moving to the next item on the agenda, item F, retirement,
That's on page 52 as well.
page 52. And what's the increase or decrease on that?
Well, we kind of did the decrease on everything.
Oh, okay.
Townwide retirement was 10.6% up.
Do we have any questions or comments from the committee on the retirement budget line? Any questions or comments from the public on the retirement budget line? Okay, what was the increase on that, Mr. Angelino?
The increase on that was 10.6.
10%, okay.
The
10.6.
townwide expenses was 1.3.
1.3 on the townwide and 10.6 on the unemployment. Okay, no questions or comments from the public on unemployment? Okay, or retirement. Next item on the agenda, transfers out,
53.
page 53.
There's nothing on the transfers out.
Nothing on the transfers.
Again, anything that was on the budget is
We had to put on the
put
agenda.
in to cover, so.
Questions or comments from the committee on transfers out budget line? Hearing none. Questions or comments from the public? The transfers out budget line? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda. Do we want to cover H, I, and J together? Those are the
Yeah.
crossing guard,
they're
school
all-
resource office, benefits management. Was there a request on these? And we'll go one by one. Crossing guards? Questions or comments from the public?
Crossing guards was on page 22,
22?
and this
Crossing
was,
guards?
this is one that we've had a request to put the crossing guards out of the joint costs and back into the crossing guard budget.
Okay, back to
I
the,
believe we can drop the
And
benefits management, because
it-
we already covered that.
It stayed, yeah, we'll bring it, but for the, yeah, so the crossing guards were requested to move back into the, well, yeah, it's actually for the crossing guards, which would be on page 22 of the budget. And the request has been to move it back. It's still the 18 people. It was a minimal increase, 1.8%.
okay, so,
It was a discussion that was brought back to the board, the town manager,
I don't mind
What?
taking the fall, John.
or,
I own
no,
this
but I
one.
mean, it was brought back, and it's been talked about, I think, with the schools and the town manager, and
We can try to put it back.
there was something, there was an agreement, they would like to see it put back where it was, taken out of joint expenses.
It wasn't a police budget, wasn't it?
It's under crossing guards on page 22.
The police pay it, but it is under a
It's,
separate category.
it's the responsibility of the police, but it's not in the police budget, it's in the crossing guard budget.
Okay.
Which falls into
I mean,
the cause.
the other option would have been to put it back in the schools, let the schools worry about it, and have the police train them with a small amount of money to train them, but that's what the request was, to
put it back to the
put it
crossing.
back into the page 22 budget, which we'll again end up picking up again sometime later.
Do we have any questions or comments from the committee on the crossing guards budget then? Any questions or comments from the public on the crossing guards budget? Hearing none, we'll go to the next line, school resource officers. This also?
This is on page 24, but again, this is one that was looked at, and they've agreed that they'd like to see the school resource officers taken out of the joint cost and put back into the police budget. And
Do we have any questions or comments from the committee?
You
then?
would find on page 24 that they put a new, they put a new item in there for the resource officers. But that's the request, is to put it back in the police.
All right, do we have any questions or comments from the committee
Yeah.
on school resource officers' budget? Yes, Joel?
I want to make sure I understand this, Chief McNamara. These are your regular police officers, right?
They are.
Okay. And you used to have this in your police budget, right?
Correct.
Okay, and now I got confused.
I can bring clarity to it if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
That would be great. Thank you, Mr. Coulter.
Upon my arrival to the town, I looked at two expenses in the police budget as we were trying to cut costs, manage costs, that were directly 100% related to schools. So I, in my wisdom, thought, we'll put that in joint costs. That makes sense. It was an inappropriate action to take. And so, to put it back into where it came from, we decided to do that very quickly. That's fine with me. Inappropriate's the wrong word, ill-advised thing to do.
Ill-advised, I like that.
All right, thank you very much for that. Any other questions or Bob?
Yeah, is those two positions just for the school year, or is that the whole year?
They're assigned SROs the entire year.
The entire year? Okay, thank you.
Even in the summertime, they'll take classes, that there's specific classes to become or remain the SRO that they have to take. There's been some additional reforms requiring them to take and be certified as an SRO.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee? Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, just a technical question. I'm looking at the budget that came out on March 7, and in the notes, it says, 2 resource officers have been included in a new department, now classified as a joint cost, but in the next line, it says exactly what you're telling me now, which is.
Because you
they
have a
move back to
budget
police.
that was updated from what the board voted. That is not a voted budget. I said that in the beginning.
said that it-
Anything
I'm-
dated March 7th is not a correct budget.
I'm saying that the information in here conflicts with where there's 2 different points of, it's saying one thing and then the other.
Let me
In your
repeat,
notes.
if your budget is dated 3/7, it was an updated budget that had not been voted, and we're working off the budget from 1/18.
Right, and then there was a document with changes. that
There's a
were-
document with
requested
requested changes,
Requested
which will be up to the finance committee to work through.
Which we have not seen yet, so we don't have anything documented on this thing.
You got the sheet.
This here?
That was voted last night by the board to put that request in.
Okay, then I guess what I'm asking then is where in this sheet does this fall?
It wasn't on this
I
one.
think it was in the
done
prior request sheet.
We had one from January 31st, and then you had one on 3/8, which was superseded by 3/9, which was superseded by another 3/9,
So I
which was
actually-
then superseded by
So it
3/14.
was distributed, it's in my inbox somewhere. That's what you're saying?
There was something put out on the, or actually on this, I'd have to look back at the 131. This, I think, became an agreement with them that they would like to do this.
All right, so between now and March 29th, we're going to get something.
You've already received
You just
something.
received it. They telling you tonight that they want to move it back to the police on page 20, which you'll probably find in that budget, if it was already updated.
I was just looking for a document that said it. That's why I'm not bringing it up. So if you're saying I already have it, then that's great. But I don't see it.
It may not have been on that one, on the 31st. I don't know if they addressed it on the 31st or not. No, it was not on the 31st one either.
That-
So it
that's
was just
fine.
an agreement
We're
they
gonna-
made. There was
we're gonna-
nothing sent out on it.
I'll have something that I could see on this. Will I?
You just got to present it to you
I did.
tonight.
I got it.
Nothing,
Presented.
that's what was presented tonight. They're looking to move it back to the
Dave,
police
I made a
budget.
mistake, and this is our attempt to fix it.
Yeah, so I'm just saying to have it showing up on a change that I could read, that's all. I'm just asking for. a
Well, it's not going to show up on the budget that
No, I agree. So, but then there's documents of changes.
You just got it. You just got the request tonight that they want to put it back to the police, just like the crossing guard to put it back to the
Just
crossing
like we
guard.
always ask for documentation, I'm just asking for documentation.
That's fine.
I'd be happy to put that in writing.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you
it
very
would-
much.
It would be the same thing for the benefit management one, too. You know, just,
So, any other questions, comments from the committee, school resource officers? Hearing none. Any other questions or comments from the public, school resource officers? Hearing none. Next, yes, please identify yourself for the record.
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 North Street. Obviously, I have a bias. Two of my siblings were Stoughton police officers. I was a Stoughton public school teacher. And you read a lot about people not wanting police officers in the schools. I haven't heard that in Stoughton. And as a former teacher, I think that having resource officers in the schools is nothing but an asset to the schools and to the department. And the resource officers that I've come in contact with have been excellent ambassadors for the police.
I agree wholeheartedly. Thank you, Cynthia.
Well, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the public, school resource officers? Hearing none, we'll go to the next item on the agenda, benefits management. Item J, and we discussed this earlier, the benefits. This is another area that was discussed to move back to the HR department, which we discussed earlier. Any questions or comments from the committee, benefits management?
it was on page 19, if you want to make note that it's been requested to move back to the HR department.
Okay, any questions or comments from the public, benefits management? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, item K, public health subsidy. Page is that on?
53.
Page 53?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Public health, yes.
Do we have a number on this?
Says 45,200.
45,200. Mr. Coulter, do we know if that also has another number there that was funded through like an ARPA grant or something?
I'm a little bit lost. Yes, there is ARPA funding in this.
Okay.
Are you on page 53, John?
Yes. That's what it said. I
Yeah,
get
public health
53.
subsidy, yeah,
Public health
that's the subsidy page.
Yeah, there's only two listed here, public health and
It just lists 45,200. And the subsidies to cover estimated revenue shortfalls. That's all that's in here.
Public health is much larger than 45, but they are getting, I believe, I'm going to guess here, it's not here, $300,000.
That's what I had heard, yeah. So there's
About
about,
the same amount as the indirect allocation.
so in the big picture, about $345,000, 300 out of ARPA, 45 straight out of the budget.
Yes.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
What is that again, ARPA money?
Oh,
It was, go ahead.
the American Rescue, I don't remember what it is right now. What was the last of it?
Your question.
Yeah, sure.
Plan Act. I couldn't think of the P, Plan Act.
COVID money.
Yeah, American Rescue Plan Act. Thank you, Jeff.
COVID money.
I thought the A stood for Adam, actually, but okay.
Adams Rescue
Adam
Plan.
Rescue.
And tomorrow night, we'll talk about that in greater detail under VNA. You know,
Oh, okay.
we met and have a plan for that, but the question is, we need some.
We'll cover that tomorrow night with VNA, I guess.
Yes.
So do we have any other questions or comments from the committee on the public health subsidy? Dave, you have something?
Yeah, I was okay understanding everything until I heard we're getting 300 plus the 45. Doesn't the 300 coming in on ARPA supplant the 45, or why does it become a need for 300 plus 45?
Because that is the rest of the structural deficit.
So that's what they're covering. They're covering that portion. We actually need 345.
No, ARPA is covering, plus or minus 300,000, Dave.
Right.
$45,000 subsidy.
So, okay, so it's only showing 45 because that's the budget portion. And everything else is,
That's correct, Dave.
and because we need 345. That's okay, thank you.
And I know we'll discuss it tomorrow, but of that, the direct costs, the indirect costs on that, I was on another page, are about $275,000 allocation. We'll
Any
get
other,
to that tomorrow.
any other questions or comments from the committee on the public health subsidy budget line here? Hearing none. Any other questions or comments from the public health subsidy? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, Cedar Hills subsidy,
Which is none.
which is zero
It's on
this
the
year,
same page.
which is very good. Any questions or comments from the committee, Cedar Hill subsidy? Hearing none. Questions or comments from the public, Cedar Hill subsidy? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, sewer fund subsidy.
Same page.
Same page, page 53. What's the total amount there, Mr.
This
Engineer?
was, the sewer, subsidy for the sewer was $513,857. A big jump from,
So that's essentially because the water and sewer rates have not been adjusted to take care of this. So we're going to subsidize straight out of the general fund $500,000 because the water and sewer rates have not been adjusted.
That's as it stands right now.
Good
We're
summary.
having a public hearing to address the rates which will affect FY '24, assuming it passes.
Oh, okay. But that won't happen before our votes, though, right?
It can, but our objective is to erase that subsidy in 2024. The question that's gonna come before the board is, do we wanna fix it in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years? That's the question that's gonna come up
Oh,
in the public.
Yeah,
hearing.
we talked about this last
So
time.
we've done all the analysis, it's
Yeah.
set for a scheduled public hearing
All right.
and a public information center, session as well.
yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the date on that?
I don't have that in front of me.
I think it was in
Trish, do you have
April.
it with you?
I think it was April something.
Trish has it on the website, we'll get it.
Okay, no problem. I can look it up, thank you.
All right. Any other
But
questions?
I don't think it was going to be done before, here,
my
before we
understanding.
vote.
That's still a prior conversation,
So,
yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the committee on the sewer fund subsidy, $513,857? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public on the sewer fund subsidy budget line? Hearing none. Any other joint cost matters? Not really a budget line.
I would just like to have these debt service items brought back again.
yeah, I've got
Okay.
it noted,
Yeah, there's
Dave.
two of them here, debt service excluded,
I
debt service.
appreciate that.
Well, yeah, no, I made note that we have to bring
I
50.
forwarded your email to Mr. Rhodes.
No, I know, you said that.
Just wanna be
I
clear.
appreciate
Yes.
all of that.
We've done financial analysis
I've
on
made
all the
note that
departments,
we need
enterprise
to bring it
and
back.
non-enterprise. And we're running substantial structural deficits in water, sewer, solid waste, and of course it was in healthcare. Healthcare is now fixed, water and sewer will be fixed with that hearing, and then we're gonna,
We've been talking about water and sewer here for years. Just no one's been listening, so.
we're listening now.
So,
It's the only way we're gonna get out of spending.
that's what we've been saying.
It's the only way.
So go to the next item on the agenda, Article 3, accepting contract roads, funds for town roads. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, general article.
Yeah, we
Any
gotta-
questions or comments from the committee?
We got 10
Article
minutes.
3, accepting contract funds for town roads. None from the committee. Any questions or comments from the public? Article 3, accepting contract funds for town roads. Hearing none. Next item on the agenda. Article 4, apply for and accept federal state funding. Any questions?
Elliot and I are taking off. Does
Oh.
that ruin your quorum?
Yeah, it will. Maybe not.
You gonna stay?
This is not
No,
gonna take long.
it won't.
Any questions or
We're
comments?
going to be done in 10 minutes.
I'm a little faint, so I'm
Oh,
gonna. take
actually,
off
yeah, you know
because
what,
I
we'll
don't
still
want
have-
the police to stop me.
We'll be all right. We'll still have 8 people here. We'll be fine.
Thank you, Bill.
You got your warning.
Yeah, we'll be good. We'll still have 8 here. We'll be fine.
Don't let the police know that.
Okay, well,
He's
okay.
got a rise.
Any questions or comments? Article 4, apply for and accept federal state funding from the committee. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Questions or comments from the public? Article 4, apply for and accept federal and state funding. Hearing none. Next item on the agenda. Article 5, disposal of town property. We vaguely touched on this earlier during the tax discussion there.
Yep.
Kind of a standard article that's on all the town meeting things. Questions or comments from the committee? Article 5, disposal of town property. Hearing none. Questions or comments from the public? Article 5, disposal of town property. Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, Article 13, reauthorization of revolving funds. This is kind of a standard article, too.
Yep.
And we did get,
We
got
did-
a chart on
we
that.
did get a
for the-
chart on that.
For the new numbers they were looking for.
Sure, absolutely. Adam, you have a question or comment on Article 13, reauthorization of revolving funds?
So what do these numbers represent? So I'm looking at maybe like Board of Health. They have their own separate budget, salaries, expenses. So what is this 120,000?
What happens is, the revolving accounts are money that those particular groups bring in.
Yep.
All right, so they bring certain money in, and then they're authorized on a revolving account, and they're authorized to spend that amount. But they can only spend it if they've brought it in. So if you have an authorized expenditure for 20,000,
Yep.
like recreation, if they had, a matter of fact, we're gonna be talking about them, but if their budget, or if their fund was 150,000 authorized,
Yep.
they can only spend the 150 if the various things they've put on, programs and everything, have brought in that money.
least that
It
one.
doesn't, they can't spend what they don't have, so you have to earn it, and all this is the amount they're authorized to spend a year out of it. So they pull the money in, it's put in for the revolving fund, and what they look at is, this is how much they can spend a year.
So that's the maximum that
That's the
they can
max.
spend, no
And it
matter how
has
much
to
they
have
bring
been
in?
earned. They can't, they can't say, I want to spend 50, but my account is only authorized to spend 40.
Yeah.
So,
So how does the budget interact with that then? So if they have a budget of 190 for the Board of Health, but they're authorized 120.
Answer that, John.
It's a separate,
no,
it's a
it's
separate
not a
bucket of money.
budget.
Like
This is
completely
a
separate
fund
than-
that, this is the money they generate.
Separate fund.
This is the money they generate that goes into this fund, like the,
It's a fund.
conservation has a fund, and they're authorized to spend so much money a year.
Through the chair, Vaughn.
Yes, Mr. Tisdale.
Help address your budget linking to this.
Yeah.
Like, for example, half of our health department, one employee gets paid from this. Half of their salary and their benefits gets paid from this line, from the revolving fund.
Okay.
So it's like, say, $50,000 or $60,000, something in that range.
Yep.
Comes out of that account every year.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Just, why don't we cover all these at once? Do you have anything on any of the?
We're going to wrap up 13, though. Any other questions or
Oh, I'm
comments
sorry.
from
I thought
the committee,
that
Article
was it.
13, reauthorization of revolving funds? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public? Article 13, reauthorization of revolving funds. Hearing none. We'll go to the next item on the agenda. Do you want to cover?
I'd like to cover Article 14 through 20 in one shot, because it's all collective bargaining, and we haven't seen anything yet, so if we haven't seen anything, we haven't seen
I'll
anything.
second Elliot's motion.
Okay, we'll cover 14 through 20 all at the same time.
Thank you.
We've received no information on any of this.
You're going to vote that.
So we have to vote it.
You've done, it's 14 through 16, Article 20 of the collective bargaining.
Yeah,
Right.
14, 15, 16,
Yeah,
17,
and
18,
it
19,
was
20.
a
yeah.
motion
Collective
and made to take them all together,
bargaining.
so you just got to
All
vote
in
it.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Perfect. Article 14 through 20, Mr. Coulter, did you have anything? We've received nothing on this.
Nothing on this.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Any
that's
questions or
fine.
comments from the committee, Article 14 through 20? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public? Article 14 through 20? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda, Article 21, supplemental fiscal year 2023 departmental budgets. We haven't received anything on this.
There's nothing at this point.
Nothing at this point?
No, close to the end of the year.
Okay, nothing at this point, though.
Nothing
All
yet.
right, thank you very much for that information. Any questions or comments from the committee, Article 21, supplemental fiscal year 2023 departmental budgets? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public? Article 21, supplemental fiscal year 2023 departmental budgets. Hearing none. Next item on the agenda. Any other matters relating to FY 24-23 budget and town meeting warrant articles? Okay, we got nothing?
I make a motion that we continue the public hearing on March 16th at 7 PM at the school committee conference room, Stoughton Public School District Office, 31 Pierce Street, Stoughton,
There
Mass.
you go, Elliot's got it.
Elliot gets a second? Nobody else wants a second down
Thank
there?
you for joining Finance Committee.
Okay, all in favor? We have a motion and a second? All in
Aye.
favor? Okay, all
Make a
opposed?
motion-
Hearing none.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Jess gets a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thanks for watching. Motion has passed. We are adjourned. Have a great night.
10:50 Apple time.